Chapter 166. How can this be? Fellini's eyes were glued to the field, unwilling to miss all the excitement that was happening above. However, in this situation, Fellini saw a situation that should not have appeared at the beginning of the battle. Are they crazy? They actually used their trump card at the beginning. Fellini grabbed the railing with both hands in shock, and almost stretched his whole body out. Yes. The semi-finals that appeared in front of everyone was an extremely shocking scene. Above the colonial satellite, two vast pillars of light rose from the two ends of the colonial satellite and pierced straight into the depths of the universe. This scene made the audience gasp in amazement. It also shocked many of the experienced Tepra fighters. These two little guys are really interesting. In VIP Room 1, the old man was still standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the changes on the field with great interest. Isn't this too reckless? Using their trump card at the beginning, how can they continue to fight? Little Schwer said faintly while holding a slender pipe. They probably want to express their determination, right, Grandpa? Mimi held her chin and thought silently for a while, then said a truth that was closer to the truth. Maybe. The old man chuckled and no longer spoke, only focusing on the field. Under the pillar of light, the astonished avalanche angel raised his hands and held Jian's sword 3 tightly. Kawaguchi Celebrity's voice also sounded at this time. Kai. Come on. I'll let you see my determination. Also let me see your determination. Come on. Celebrity. At this moment, there was no need to say anything more. The only thing he could do was to use his most powerful attack on the opponent with all his strength. So, under the watchful eyes of the entire audience, the two pillars of light that rose into the sky from the left and right fell towards each other, towards the enemy in their eyes. Boom! In an instant, the two pillars of light collided together and caused an earth-shattering explosion. As soon as the two turbulent particle torrents collided, a violent explosion that even the colonial satellite below could not avoid erupted. At this moment, the colonial satellite let out a mournful cry. The outer wall that provided extremely strong protection for the colonial satellite's internal environment was broken at this moment. The spiderweb-like cracks grew in number under the impact of the explosions. Eventually, the outer wall of the colonial satellite was completely torn apart, exposing the inner city of the colonial satellite to the boundless void. Boom! 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 It was undoubtedly a doomsday-like scene. In this doomsday scene, the pirate Gouda and the astonished avalanche angel were still standing in their original positions, firmly holding onto the light sword that was capable of slashing stars, pressing down on the other party. However, as the initiator, Rei Minkai and Kawaguchi personage had underestimated the terrifying power of the powerful lightsaber unleashed by their beloved machine. Crack! Suddenly, whether it was the pirate Gouda's steel eagle arm guard or the astonished avalanche angel's Jian sword 3, they all made a strange noise in unison. The moment the noise sounded, Rei Minkai and Kawaguchi personage frowned in unison, subconsciously thinking that this wave of attack might not be able to persist any longer. Kai! Personage! The two, who realized this, pushed the control ball in their right hands and increased the output of the body to the extreme. Boom! The two huge lightsabers suddenly expanded by 3 times, and the momentum was even more terrifying. It also accelerated the disintegration of the colonial satellite below by several times. Crack kacha! Cracks! The cracks, like the disintegration of the colonial satellite, frantically swallowed the pirate Gouda's steel eagle arm guard and the astonished avalanche angel's Jian sword 3. Just as the two lightsabers crossed from the sky and moved down to the ground, the steel eagle arm guard and the Jian sword 3 finally exploded with a whine. Boom! This was not only the whine of the steel eagle arm guard and the Jian sword 3, but it was also the whine of the disintegration of the colonial satellite. Rumble! The sound of the explosion was like thunder that constantly vibrated back and forth above the venue. The entire process of the disintegration of the colonial satellite was also captured by the surveillance camera without missing a second, and it was perfectly presented in front of the audience. At this moment, what the audience saw was the entire process of the disintegration of a colonial satellite that was swallowed by the explosion and torn apart by the explosion. As for the initiator, the pirate Gauda and the astonished avalanche angel, they disappeared for a while. Right now, the screen was full of flames and lightning caused by the explosion. These two lunatics, they actually blew up a colonial satellite. Fellini opened his mouth in a daze and punched the railing hard. Fellini, look, the pirate Gauda and the astonished avalanche angel are out. The next moment, Chiara's voice pulled Fellini's attention back to the game. In the billowing fireball, in the midst of the lightning and thunder, the pirate Gauda and the astonished avalanche angel appeared on the screen again. Wisps of debris floated out from the pirate Gauda's arms and drifted into the surrounding sea of fire. The steel eagle arm guard that allowed the pirate Gauda to unleash that shocking sword strike had already turned into countless fragments and drifted in this universe. The only thing left was the two long swords in the pirate Gauda's hands. The same was true for the GN Sword 3 in the hands of the astonished avalanche angel. The GN Sword 3 that formed the GN Sword 3 with the GN Sword was already broken, and even the GN Sword itself was damaged. Fortunately, the GN Sword could still be used. It seems that we have underestimated the other party's strength. Kawaguchi Famer glanced at the disintegrated colonial satellite. No. It should be said that we underestimated our own strength. Rei Minkai shook his head. The disintegration of the colonial satellite had already exceeded the expectations of Kawaguchi Famer and Rei Minkai. But the arrow on the bow had to be released. Furthermore, this was only a scene projected by the Palevsky particles. There would not be any life. Therefore, Rei Minkai and Kawaguchi Famer could only silently apologize before they once again entered the battle. In the sea of fire, the pirate Gauda and the astonished avalanche angel began to move again. The two swords in the pirate Gauda's hands turned into a storm, creating a red storm above the sea of fire that swept towards the astonished avalanche angel. The astonished avalanche angel's left hand reached for his waist, and a beam sword appeared in his hand. Together with the GN sword in his right hand, he parried the storm attack of the pirate Gauda. Bang! Buzz! Cold light flashed. Rays of sword light became the melody between the pirate Gauda and the astonished avalanche angel, dancing between the attacks of the two again and again. Shwa! The pirate master raised the long sword in his right hand and blocked the GN sword of the astonished avalanche angel. And in the blink of an eye, the long sword in his left hand stabbed out, piercing the beam sword in the hands of the astonished avalanche angel. TSK. Kawaguchi Famer cursed in his heart. He quickly raised the astonished avalanche angel's left hand and threw the beam sword that was about to explode towards the pirate Gauda. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the beam sword exploded between the pirate Gauda and the astonished avalanche angel. The billowing smoke instantly enveloped the two steel pola bodies. Puff! Puff! However, the pirate Gauda and the astonished avalanche angel rushed out of the billowing smoke almost at the same time, and once again increased their altitude and rushed towards each other. Flowing light. It appeared again. The stream of light that the pirate Gauda and the astonished avalanche angel turned into was like lightning, shuttling back and forth in the sea of fire that the colonial satellite had turned into. They constantly engaged in fierce battles between the burning wreckage. The sword blade roared. The particles roared. It was the portrayal of the pirate Gauda and the astonished avalanche angel at this moment. It was also one of the scenes in the battle between Rei Minkai and Kawaguchi Famer. Boom! Suddenly, a sudden explosion separated the entangled pirate Gauda and the astonished avalanche angel. It was the explosion of the energy storage in the colonial satellite. This extremely coincidental explosion instantly split the battlefield into two halves, forcibly separating the pirate Gouda and the astonished Avalanche Angel. UFFI. Pay attention to the surroundings. Ray Minkai's expression was focused, and there was a hint of solemnity in his eyes. Although the pirate Gouda and the astonished Avalanche Angel were fighting back and forth just now, the astonished Avalanche Angel was still in the Trans-AM system. Ray Minkai did not know the reason why the astonished Avalanche Angel was still able to maintain Trans-AM after the GN Sword 3's strongest power erupted, but he knew that the astonished Avalanche Angel's Trans-AM system would not reach the last second. The outcome of this battle was still unknown. Kai. Behind the right. With Euphemia's reminder, Ray Minkai instinctively threw out the longsword in the pirate Gao Da's hand and attacked the target that appeared behind the right. But, in the next second, Ray Minkai was shocked. Not good! Buzz. The beam shield on the pirate Gao Da's left forearm immediately unfolded and blocked the GN sword that suddenly appeared on the left with a millisecond difference. Hey! Your reaction is quite fast, Kai. As soon as the voice of the famous person from Kawaguchi rang out, the left side of the pirate Gouda was already empty. Triple red state. Ray Minkai narrowed his eyes slightly. You're really fast. Swoosh. The sword light suddenly burst out from the pirate Gouda's back, but it only fiercely missed. Then, a black shadow appeared behind the Avalanche Energy Angel, who was wearing red battle armor. Once again, the sword light erupted, but it missed its target. Then, another sword light exploded from the pirate Gao Da's back, but it missed again. Back and forth, the two steel pullabodies kept exchanging positions, trying to launch a sure-kill attack. With Ray Minkai's full power, even though the pirate Gouda did not have the Trans-AM system, he could barely keep up with the astonished Avalanche Angel's speed. The moment the body's performance reached its peak, the pirate Gao Da's mask quietly opened. Chapter 167. Mouth Cannon. Yes. Once upon a time, no, it should be said that since Gao Da's F-91 was released, there had been two controversial topics about Gao Da's F-91. One was the mouth cannon. The second was the afterimage. In the beginning, perhaps due to editing problems, when Gao Da's F-91 opened its mask, the scene of several golden lights suddenly shooting out was mistaken by many Gao Da's fans as a very powerful, very secret beam weapon. In the end, it was because the body was overheating and the mask's heat dissipation setting was turned on. As for the afterimages, which were more intense, they were much more interesting. After all, this afterimage had another meme. For example, the F-91 with paint peeling off. Due to the phenomenon of heavy metal ions peeling off, the coating that peeled off from the F-91 became afterimages, thus disrupting the radar skills carried by the enemy's body. Of course, these two memes were actually not very closely related to Pirate Gouda. It was just that in the mask, Pirate Gouda was able to open it to dissipate heat when the body was overheated, just like Gao Da's F-91. Therefore, on a whim, Ray Minkai redesigned Pirate Gao Da's head in these 3 days, so that it could inadvertently send a big gift to the opponent. Buzz! A tiny beam of light shot out from under the Pirate Gundam's mask without warning, heading straight for the astonished Avalanche Energy Angel's head. Kawaguchi Nomi was so shocked that he didn't have time to react. He could only react subconsciously and forcefully controlled the Avalanche Angel to tilt to the right. Z! As the beam of light flashed, the surprised Avalanche Angel that barely dodged the beam attack had a part of its left face melted by the residual heat of the beam. Kawaguchi Nomi was not surprised by this. On the contrary, his response in the next second was to immediately control the surprised Avalanche Angel to turn around and quickly dodge the beam that was closing in. He rushed to the left side of Pirate Gouda and slashed with his sword. Buzz! Another beam shield. Just as the astonishing Avalanche's GN greatsword was about to cut down the pirate Gouda, the pirate Gouda's left arm once again flashed with the unique radiance of a beam shield. Seeing that his attack had failed, he immediately retreated. The Avalanche, Energy Angel, who was still in awe of Trans-AM, had no intention of tangling with pirate Gouda. Instead, he used the high mobility granted by the Trans-AM system to constantly search for pirate Gouda's weakness. After images, amidst the astonished avalanches that could move like angels, they appeared in this region and surrounded the pirate Gundam in a chaotic manner. Rei Minkai did not act rashly. In the battle just now, he realized that if he continued to barely keep up with the speed of the Avalanche Angel, a fatal flaw would appear in a few minutes, and he would be caught by Kawaguchi no Mi, who had been waiting for a long time, and deliver a fatal blow. How so? Kai, you don't dare to follow me anymore? Rei Minkai had the intention to wait, but Kawaguchi no Mi had no intention of walking into the trap. But his voice continued to ring out, constantly provoking Rei Minkai. In this regard, Rei Minkai smiled gently and did not respond. Obviously, Rei Minkai did not fall for Kawaguchi no Mi's provocation. Nomi, pay attention to the time of Trans-AM. At this moment, Aaron, who had been silently assisting Kawaguchi no Mi, suddenly reminded him. Kawaguchi no Mi's pupils shrank slightly, and he subconsciously glanced at the residual particles on the left side of the control panel. He immediately gave up the previous provocation and adopted a more radical approach. The astonishing Avalanche Angel's figure flashed, and in the blink of an eye, it rushed to the pirate Gouda. The GN greatsword in its hand went straight for pirate Gouda's chest. Bang! The red blade and the white blade collided in an instant. What? Can't wait any more? Rei Minkai smiled. He, naturally, knew that Trans-AM's time was running out. If this continued, the winner would inevitably be pirate Gouda. Yes. I really can't wait any more. Kai. The Battle of Steel Pulla should not be spent in this meaningless time-wasting tactic, but it should be more blazing, more fanatical burning. Kawaguchi no Mi's glasses flashed, and the pair of eyes hidden behind them looked at Rei Minkai with a blazing gaze. You want to burn yourself to your heart's content? Rei Minkai curled the corner of his mouth and shouted loudly. As you wish. As soon as the voice fell, pirate Gouda flew up and kicked fiercely at the waist of the astonishing Avalanche Angel. Swoosh! Before the kick arrived, the astonishing Avalanche Angel's figure turned into an afterimage, and its real body moved at high speed, and once again appeared behind pirate Gouda. Got it! A cold light flashed in Kawaguchi no Mi's eyes. Who said so? Rei Minkai retorted loudly, and at the same time, turned his left hand and dodged. The X-type thrusters on pirate Gouda's back all pointed at the astonishing Avalanche Angel, and in an instant, a powerful flame erupted and forced the astonishing Avalanche Angel's blade away. At the same time, under the push of these four powerful tongues of flame, pirate Gouda also accelerated and left the astonishing Avalanche Angel in the blink of an eye, and landed on a piece of wreckage not far away. Beautiful! There is such a countermeasure. What a surprise! Kai. Kawaguchi no Mi, who missed again, recalled the scene where pirate Gouda used the explosion of the X-type thrusters on his back to forcefully break the astonishing Avalanche Angel's sure-kill attack, and praised sincerely. No. This is just a method left behind by the predecessors. Rei Minkai shook his head and did not take it seriously. Predecessors? Kshatriya? Kawaguchi no Mi thought for a moment, and remembered the crucial scene in the battle between Kshatriya and Captain Jiegang. That's right. In the response, pirate Gouda stepped on the wreckage and suddenly accelerated toward the astonishing Avalanche Angel. It's my turn. No Mi. With a flash of the sword, pirate Gouda's long sword drew a flashing arc in the void, and went straight for the astonishing Avalanche Angel like lightning. Good timing! Kawaguchi no Mi was not surprised, but happy. As he shouted, his hands moved continuously and entered a series of commands. The astonishing avalanche. Angel first waved the GN sword in his hand to block Pirate Gao Da's long sword, and at the same time, reached out his left hand and pulled out two beam swords from his waist. In a flash, he took advantage of the sparks that burst out when the two swords clashed and threw them at Pirate Gao Da's chest. Swoosh! Swoosh! Two afterimages flashed. Bang! Bang! But the moment it was about to hit Pirate Gao Da's chest, it was blocked halfway by two black shadows that came out from Pirate Gao Da's waist. Kawaguchi no Mi frowned, and immediately let the astonishing avalanche. Angel use force to block Pirate Gao Da's long sword, and once again accelerated to get away from Pirate Gao Da. The next moment, the two beam swords that were blocked by the black shadows exploded with a loud bang. Boom! In the midst of the flames, Pirate Gao Da's figure quickly rushed out from inside, and immediately caught the trail of the astonishing avalanche. Angel. Pirate Gao Da raised his left hand, and since the beginning, he had not used the beam rifle in his hand, and pointed it at the astonishing avalanche. Angel from afar. Buzz! 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 Under the deliberate use of Ray Minkai, the beam rifle continuously locked onto the astonishing avalanche. Angel with 3 consecutive shots, trying to block its movement path, but it did not have much effect. It's just blocking the astonishing avalanche. Angel's movement? Kawaguchi no Mi narrowed his eyes slightly, and immediately understood Ray Minkai's intention. There was no other reason. That was, he was trying to stop the astonishing avalanche. Angel's movement and stall for time as much as possible. How can I let you succeed? The astonishing avalanche. Angel took advantage of the moment when it passed by a piece of wreckage to make a sharp turn and rushed out from the other side of the wreckage. At the same time, it raised the GN greatsword that had returned to shooting mode, and with lightning speed, it shot towards Pirate Gao Da. Buzz! In this small and dense array of light beams, the beam rifle in Pirate Gao Da's hand was actually hit. However, the astonishing avalanche, Angel also paid the same price. Although it launched an attack with lightning speed and hit the beam rifle in Pirate Gao Da's hand, almost at the same time, the beam rifle in Pirate Gao Da's hand also fired a critical shot. Boom! Boom! 2 explosions occurred almost at the same time in the hands of Pirate Gao Da and the astonishing avalanche. Angel. Well done, Kai. You too. Pirate Gao Da's beam rifle was scrapped. But unexpectedly, the astonishing avalanche. Angel's GN greatsword could still be used, but it could only be used in blade mode. Not bad team. Famous. Ray Minkai looked at the astonishing avalanche. Sword that could still be used even though it had been damaged. Yes, Kai. Now, standing behind Kawaguchi no Mi is an elite team from the PPSE Development Department. Kawaguchi no Mi said proudly. It's really scary. Ray Minkai said that he was afraid, but he did not show any signs of fear. Come on, Kai. The astonishing avalanche. Angel waved the astonishing avalanche, sword in his hand, and rushed forward again. As the sword flashed, he crazily slashed at Pirate Gao Da. His speed was even faster than before by 30%. Clang! The long sword in Pirate Gao Da's hand was cut in half. Boom! The broken sword in the Pirate Gundam's hand viciously pierced a hole in the armor on the Angel's shoulder. In an instant, a stream of particles crazily gushed out from the hole. Kawaguchi no Mi, who saw that the situation was not good, immediately abandoned it. Boom! The moment the outer armor left the astonished, avalanche energy Angel, it exploded with a loud bang. It's actually a particle tank disguised as an outer armor? If it was just an outer armor, it was impossible to release such a large amount of particle jet. At the moment of its explosion, Ray Minkai understood why the astonishing avalanche. Angel could rely on a single furnace to release the full power of the astonishing avalanche, Sword 3. It turned out that the astonishing avalanche, Angel, was carrying a particle tank disguised as an outer armor. Chapter 168. When Rei Minkai discovered the secret of the particle tank, Kawaguchi Ming immediately threw away the other intact particle tank, and at the moment when he quickly retreated, he took out a beam sword and threw it at the particle tank. Boom! As soon as the beam sword pierced into the particle tank, a thick particle smoke suddenly exploded from the particle tank, and in the blink of an eye, it drowned Pirate Gao Da Kai. Pirate Gao Da's radar system has failed. This particle smoke is strange. Euphemia's voice was very urgent. Understood. It's particle interference smoke. You have a way. Famous. In the particle smoke, Pirate Gao Da put on a vigilant posture and carefully guarded the surroundings. Now, with the particle interference smoke all around, Pirate Gao Da's radar system had almost failed. The only thing he could rely on was Rei Minkai's own eyes and intuition. Where is it? Famous. If it were you, where would you attack from? Rei Minkai's eyes gradually narrowed, and his mind became more and more focused. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning exploded in Rei Minkai's mind. Over there! Pirate Gao Da touched his waist with his right hand and waved it forcefully in the direction Rei Minkai had sensed. A black shadow, like a dragon emerging from the sea, broke through the layers of smoke in an instant and pierced towards the black shadow hidden behind the smoke. Bang! It hit. The shadow shot by Pirate Gao Da hit the object. However, when the layers of smoke dispersed, what appeared in front of Pirate Gao Da turned out to be a fragment of the outer wall of a colonial satellite. The object that the shadow hit was it. Not good. Rei Minkai was shocked, and immediately controlled Pirate Gao Da to turn around, raise his left arm, and quickly spread out the beam shield on his forearm. Z. The particle vibration frequency on the beam shield suddenly became abnormal. Rei Minkai took a closer look. It turned out that the GN greatsword in the hands of the astonished avalanche Angel had already pierced through the light beam shield, and was slowly chopping down towards the pirate Gundam's left arm. Kai. The beam shield can no longer provide any power for Pirate Gao Da. In the loud shout of the Kawaguchi Ming, the speed of the GN sword's downward slash became faster and faster, and the beam shield was like a piece of paper. Just as the GN sword was about to slash Pirate Gao Da's left arm, Rei Minkai gritted his teeth, and decisively adopted the strategy of abandoning a rook to save the king. He forcibly turned off the beam shield, and tried his best to retract his left arm as much as possible, in an attempt to avoid being cut by the GN sword. Shwa! The sword light flashed. Bang! The beam generator on the pirate's left arm was cut in half by GN's greatsword. Fortunately, Pirate Gao Da's left arm was Ming's. However, Rei Minkai, who had suffered such a great loss, would definitely not let this matter rest. The smoke from the GN's explosion had not yet spread out. Pirate Gao Da, under Rei Minkai's control, quickly reached for his waist. In the next second, a black shadow plunged into the smoke. Caught you! Famous person! No sound came from within the smoke, but Rei Minkai knew that this time, Pirate Gao Da's whip had caught its target. Pirate Gao Da's left hand paused, and then suddenly raised and retracted it, continuously exerting force, attempting to pull out the target behind the smoke, which was the astonished avalanche angel. In the instant that the long whip was pulled taut, a figure suddenly broke through the smoke, and along the long whip, it fiercely pounced towards Pirate Gao Da. In fact, there was a rather dazzling yet deadly radiance in the midst of the dispersing smoke. It was the astonished avalanche angel. It turned out that Pirate Gao Da's whip had hit, no, it should be said that it had bound the GN sword in the astonished avalanche angel's hand, which was why the previous stalemate had occurred. But Kawaguchi famous person quickly reacted, and used the opportunity to quickly approach Pirate Gouda, attempting to use the beam sword in the astonished Avalanche Angel's left hand to attack Pirate Gouda. However, Kawaguchi Famous Person had beaten him at his own game, and Rei Minkai also took advantage of the situation. Since the astonished Avalanche Angel had sent itself to his door, then Rei Minkai would not be polite. Pirate Gouda's left hand suddenly whipped downwards, and the astonished Avalanche Angel's body posture was suddenly affected by the vibration of the long whip, and the beam sword piercing towards Pirate Gouda also began to shake. Pa! With an explosive sound, Pirate Gouda retracted the long whip that had previously struck the colonial satellite's outer wall fragment, and then quickly attacked again, straight towards the beam sword in the astonished Avalanche Angel's hand. As long as it hit, then the beam sword of the astonished Avalanche Angel would definitely follow in the footsteps of the previous beam sword predecessors, and end up exploding. At this time, Kawaguchi Famous Person would not watch the remaining beam sword be destroyed, so he took the corresponding measures almost at the same time. The astonished Avalanche Angel's left wrist that was holding the beam sword turned, and actually avoided Pirate Gouda's whip attack by a hair's breadth, and in the next second, he used the beam sword to cut the long whip in half. Suddenly, a black shadow flashed in front of him. Kawaguchi Famous Person quivered, and immediately made the astonished Avalanche Angel raise his left hand and block in front of his chest. Clang! In the blink of an eye, a thermal dagger shining with red light appeared on the screen in front of Kawaguchi Famous Person. This thermal dagger actually pierced through the left arm that had just been raised, and stopped in front of the astonished Avalanche Angel's head. Kai! In great shock, flames appeared in Kawaguchi Famous Person's eyes, and he shouted his opponent's name with all his might. The astonished Avalanche Angel waved his right hand, and forcefully cut off the long whip that had been wrapped around it with the sharpness of the Jien sword, and then, he used all his strength to lift it up. Kacha! The sound of something being cut off rang out. At the same time, the thermal dagger in front of the astonished Avalanche Angel was also cut off by a strong force, and the left arm of the astonished Avalanche Angel was cut off. When Kawaguchi Famous Person's vision suddenly became clear, he saw Pirate Gouda, whose left arm was cut off, rush forward, and once again sent a flying kick towards the astonished Avalanche Angel. Kawaguchi Famous Person, who reacted quickly, was not willing to fall behind, and also let the astonished Avalanche Angel return a tooth for a tooth. Boom! The two steel pulla bodies kicked with all their strength, and the particle interference smoke around them was scattered far away. At the same time, the two steel pulla bodies were also sent flying by the impact, falling from the particle interference smoke, all the way to the desolate moon below. Bang! Bang! The Pirate Gouda and the astonished Avalanche Angel were not far from each other. In fact, they were quite close to each other. They even saw their opponents struggling to stand up in the midst of the flying moon dust. Kai, are you burning up? The astonished Avalanche Angel trembled as he stood up. The Jien sword in his hand was still leveled, and pointed at Pirate Gouda. Hee. What do you think? Famous Person. Our battle was very intense. The Pirate Gouda, who lost his left arm, reached out his right hand and touched his waist again. This time, the light emitted by the particles illuminated Pirate Gouda's face. At this time, the astonished Avalanche Angel's red lotus armor suddenly shattered. The surging energy of the solar furnace also dimmed. Is it time? Kawaguchi Famous Person looked at the few particles left, and secretly sighed. It's not over yet. Famous Person. We still have a chance. His partner Aaron spoke again. Aaron. The Trans-AM system is over. It's not over yet. Famous Person. As long as all functions other than the operation of the body are shut down, and the remaining particles are all used for the final attack, then we still have a chance. Aaron quickly typed on the virtual keyboard, and said the last solution he thought of. Is that so? Then, I'll leave it to you, Aaron. The astonished avalanche angel raised the GN sword, slightly stepped out with its left foot, leaned forward, and assumed a charging posture. However, the light emitted by the particle capacitance on its body had dimmed a lot. UFFI. This is the final attack. Seeing the astonished avalanche angel's performance, Rei Minkai immediately guessed Kawaguchi famous person's thoughts. Understood. Pirate Gao Da's right hand was at his waist, and he held the beam saber diagonally, and also assumed a charging posture. At this moment the audience was silent. Everyone knew that this was the final attack that would decide the semifinals. No one dared to make a sound at this moment. There were only pairs of eyes filled with fanaticism, expectation, and excitement. Thank you, Kai. Sorry to keep you waiting. Kawaguchi famous person glanced at Aaron's thumbs up on the screen and knew that everything was going well. Is it done? Then, let's use this attack to decide the winner. Rei Minkai shook his head slightly and said the two people's thoughts. Yes. This is the final attack. Let's decide the winner. Kai. This battle is the battle that I've burned the most thoroughly. No matter what the result is, I will treat it as the best moment of my life. After that, Kawaguchi famous person took a deep breath and shouted, Astonished avalanche angel, target, expel. Almost at the same time, Rei Minkai, who seemed to have sensed Kawaguchi famous person's thoughts, also shouted, Pirate Gouda, seize victory. As soon as the two finished speaking, Pirate Gouda, astonished avalanche angel, they both took a step and turned into wind and thunder, rushing towards the opponent. As the distance between them got closer and closer, the audience subconsciously straightened their bodies and focused their eyes on the screen. Kai. Famous person. Close, close, close. It was only a short distance. With the two steel pulla bodies moving at full speed, they arrived in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Rei Minkai's eyes lit up with the cold light of the GN greatsword. Kawaguchi famous person's eyes lit up with the flowing light of the beam saber. At this moment there was no explosion, there was no roar, there was only the sound of the GN greatsword cutting through the body, there was only the sizzling sound of the beam saber piercing through the body. Clang! Pirate Gouda, who had given each other a blow, and the astonished avalanche angel collided with each other at zero distance, ending the final blow. Who won? The same question sounded in the hearts of the audience. Everyone stared at the big screen, staring at the two steel pulla bodies that had collided with each other in the middle of the screen, but were supporting each other. Ka! Suddenly, a soft sound broke the deadlock. It moved. It moved. The astonished avalanche angel suddenly moved. Is it the astonished avalanche angel that won? When they saw the astonished avalanche angel move, everyone's hearts were in their throat. However, the astonished avalanche angel, who had only moved a few times, suddenly froze and powerlessly slid down from Pirate Gao Da's body, falling to the ground. As the astonished avalanche angel fell, the beam saber in Pirate Gao Da's hand also disappeared. In its place was Pirate Gouda, who was standing on the moon with his right hand raised high, declaring victory. Hua! The audience burst into thunderous applause. Chapter 169. Amidst the applause, Kawaguchi Nomi slowly put down his hands, took a deep breath, and looked back at his partner. Aaron. Sorry. I lost. However, Aaron closed his eyes and shook his head. No. This was a great battle. Kawaguchi Nomi, although you lost, listened to the cheers of the audience. Aaron raised his finger and pointed behind Kawaguchi Nomi. The audience stood up excitedly and waved at Kawaguchi Nomi's name. Everyone? When Kawaguchi Nomi turned around, the audience cheered even louder and waved at Kawaguchi Nomi frantically. Nomi. This will be an unforgettable battle. Rei Minkai and Euphemia bypassed the large steel pulla battle platform and came to Kawaguchi Nomi's side. They smiled and extended their right hand to Kawaguchi no Mi. Kai. Kawaguchi no Mi paused for a moment, then reached out his right hand and shook Rei Minkai's hand. Kai. Next time, I'll use my own mech to fight you. As long as I have time, I welcome you. After this world competition, Rei Minkai probably won't have many opportunities to come to the Steel Pula world again. Whether it was as an inspector or as a knight, these two duties made it difficult for Rei Minkai to have time to wander around. Therefore, Rei Minkai could only give a vague answer. Even so, Kawaguchi no Mi nodded heavily, indicating that it was a promise. The handshake between Rei Minkai and Kawaguchi no Mi set off a wave of enthusiastic cheers from the audience. Kai. No Mi. Kai. No Mi. When Rei Minkai and Kawaguchi Famer heard this, they waved to the audience in unison before leaving the stage together and returning to their seats. Kai. Do you still want to go back? Kawaguchi no Mi stood at the entrance and looked at Rei Minkai. No. I want to see the battle between Makoto and Lingshi. Rei Minkai shook his head and spoke his mind. He knew that the reason why Kawaguchi no Mi asked this was because in all the games before the semi-finals, Rei Minkai and Euphemia would leave the venue immediately and no longer pay attention to the following games. However, in the semi-finals, although Rei Minkai knew that Makoto Ito and Lingshi would win, he wanted to know if the Palevsky particle would reappear in the original timeline. In this world, the existence of the Authority has reduced C's living space by a lot. Even in the recent incident, C was jointly suppressed by the Authority and the local forces. Therefore, Rei Minkai couldn't help but be curious. If there were no external forces interfering, would the resonance of the Palevsky particles occur? Thinking of this, Rei Minkai subconsciously looked at the position of VIP room number 1. No Mi, is the president of PPSE watching this game? After Kawaguchi no Mi was taken aback, he subconsciously looked at Alan. Among the two, only Alan, the director of the PPSE development department, can come into contact with the president from time to time. Alan was silent for a while, but he still spoke. Although I don't know why you are asking about the president's whereabouts, I can tell you that the president is not in Shizuoka now. Not in Shizuoka? When Rei Minkai heard this, he immediately fell into deep thought. Now that he thought about it, except for the big battle, when the Megazai's Zagu appeared as usual, the troubles that appeared one after another did not come to the door to add trouble to Makoto Ito and Lingshi. At this moment, Alan's next sentence gave Rei Minkai an answer. If you want to find the senior management of PPSE, there may be a very good opportunity now. Our PPSE chairman happens to be in VIP room number 1. Chairman? In an instant, Rei Minkai immediately figured everything out. In the final analysis, it was still the authorities' problem. Not only had the administrative bureau dealt with C, but even Mimi had also come to the venue. As expected of the authority. However, Rei Minkai didn't know that the reason why Mimi came here to watch the game was because she was her sister's lookout. Next is to decide the last candidate for the finals, right? In VIP room number 1, little Shui casually rotated the slender pipe in her hand. Well, the next game is the semi-final between Makoto Ito and Lingshi, and Ella from Team Nemesis. Mimi glanced at the list displayed on the big screen and repeated it. Makoto Ito? The old man still standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window was silent for a moment. Is it the son of Izzy? Yes, it's him. By the way, didn't the Third Fleet return to Xingyao City a few days ago to rest? I'm afraid Izzy has already returned to this world. Mimi recalled and nodded. Don't be afraid. He's already here. He's right down there. Little Shui lazily pointed with the slender pipe in her hand, attracting the attention of the old man and Mimi until they saw a man in a red shirt with a smile on his face hugging the woman named Izzy Rinko. That's fast. I'm afraid they didn't even need to report? Mimi pondered for a moment and immediately guessed what kind of backdoor Rei, who was in charge of the reception, opened for Izzy to leave early. Should we investigate? Little Shui raised her eyebrows and a mischievous smile appeared on her face. How is that possible? I'm not that kind of rude and unreasonable person. Mimi rolled her eyes and pointed her finger. Grandpa, Little Shui, look. Makoto Ito and Lingshi are coming out. A light shone down from the dome and shrouded Makoto Ito and Lingshi, who walked out of the passage. TSK. So dazzling. What are these bastards doing? Lingshi raised his right hand to block the dazzling light and cursed in a low voice. Lingshi, just bear with it. After all, everyone is so enthusiastic. Moreover, in the next battle, the winner of the finals will be determined between us and Ella. Makoto Ito smiled bitterly and tried to comfort Lingshi. You don't need to say this. Ching, even if you don't say it, I know. In this battle, we can only win. Also, I have some things I want to ask you. Lingshi thought back to the quarterfinals when he suddenly found out that Ella was a contestant from Team Nemesis. He also saw Ella brutally beating up her opponent's steel pulla even though she knew that her opponent had given up on the battle. Lingshi had never seen Ella like this before and would never admit that she was the girl who fought with him for food. That young man seems to have made up his mind. Suddenly, the old man standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window said with a hint of admiration in his eyes. Young man? That? When Little Snow heard this, she raised her little head and kept looking down. It's Lingshi. He seems to know the female contestant from Team Nemesis. Mimi's gaze moved back and forth between Lingshi and Ella. Is that so? Let me see. Little Shui, who was completely interested, snapped her fingers and a cloud of smoke rose from the mouth of her pipe. In the blink of an eye, images appeared in front of Little Shui's eyes amidst the smoke. So that's how it is. So it's because they didn't fight. Oh no, it's because they didn't know each other. Then, while they got to know each other, they put on a story of a hero saving a damsel in distress. Little Shui watched the changes in the smoke while giving a timely comment. Little Shui, what did you promise me? All of a sudden, Mimi's casual words caused Little Snow's body to tremble. She hurriedly patted away the cloud of smoke and revealed a funny smile, trying to pass the test with her adorableness. Smack! Mimi snapped her fingers and flicked Little Shui's forehead. It hurts, Sister Mimi. Little Shui cried out in pain with tears in her eyes. It's good that you know it hurts. Next time, if you use your ability carelessly, I'll really teach you a lesson. Mimi waved her little hand and gave a warning. Little Shui replied pitifully. Who knew, the next moment, Mimi, who was still teaching her a lesson, turned her head and immediately revealed a gossipy expression. Come, Little Shui, what did you see? Why did Lingshi and Ella go against each other? According to the flow of the story, they should have already talked, right? Humph! Little Shui snorted and said reluctantly, It's a guy named Nainbart who used some kind of technology to control Ella. That's why this situation happened. Hearing this, Mimi rolled her eyes. So it's such a cliché story again. It's boring. At this moment, Mimi and Little Shui's minds suddenly exploded with thunder. Mimi, Little Shui, look. The old man also called Mimi and Little Shui and asked them to look down. That is? Particle resonance. Two dazzling lights lit up in the venue without any warning, making people unable to open their eyes. Smack. Not good. Chairman, the Palevsky particle seems to have gone berserk. At the same time, Secretary Baker also opened the door and exclaimed, It's indeed particle resonance. Mimi shook her head at Baker, signaling him to rest assured, and turned to look at Little Shui. Yes, it's just particle resonance. Don't worry. Then, let's punish the bad guy properly. What do you think? A golden light suddenly rose from the depths of Mimi and Little Shui's eyes, and the brain quantum waves surrounding their bodies surged along with it. Agreed. The next moment, the man who was standing behind Ella and constantly using the materialization system to force Ella to attack, Bart, suddenly trembled, and the movements of his hands froze. What's going on? In the midst of the panic of losing control of his body, Bart found himself reaching out to touch Ella's head, snatching the materialization system from her, and putting it on his head. No! Chapter 170. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Bart, who had been supporting Ella from behind, suddenly snatched Ella's helmet and put it on his own head. This scene shocked Ray Minkai. What happened? Ray Minkai subconsciously looked towards VIP Room 1. If there was an anomaly that caused this scene to happen, then there was definitely an anomaly in VIP Room 1. Mimi. While he was puzzled, the light that illuminated the entire venue gradually disappeared. What was left was Ella, who had lost her footing after losing her helmet, and Bart, who had snatched the helmet and put it on. Lingshire. The opponent has changed. It's not Ella. Although he didn't know what was going on, Makoto Ito could see that the figure hidden behind the Palovsky particles had changed from the slender Ella to the shadow of an adult man. All right. I've been holding this breath for a long time. Cheng. Although I don't know what's going on, can I give him a beating? Lingshire laughed mischievously and shouted in a loud voice. Just a moment ago. In the midst of that mysterious light, Lingshire actually saw the crying Ella and learned the whole story from her. Therefore, erupt. Of course. RG system. Activate. Lingshire. Go. Alright. The guy hiding behind me, eat my RG Iron Fist. No! Facing the Iron Fist of Interstellar's creation, Gouda, a panicked voice rang out from within Capini's body. No. No. Why am I in here? No! The completely out-of-control Capini was unsurprisingly smashed to the ground by Interstellar's creation. Gouda Capini continuously struggled on the ground, but was unable to stand up. It could only wriggle on the ground in vain. Why am I here? This is clearly Ella's job. Why did I become Capini's pilot? Why? The voice that constantly came from Capini's body made Lingshire frown. Hey, honesty. Is that guy crazy? As he spoke, Lingshire pointed to the opposite side with a disdainful look. Probably. Makoto Ito's mouth twitched. In the end, he lied against his conscience. Maybe he's addicted to steel pulla. Lingshire was stunned and blinked. There's such a thing? Makoto Ito looked up at the sky and scratched his face with his fingers, forcing himself to find an excuse. That's probably the case. However, Lingshire did not delve into what was going on. He was just casually asking. Whatever. Anyway, just kill him. Boom. Under Lingshire's control, Gouda fiercely charged forward, brandishing his fists as he charged at Capini. No. Don't come over. Perhaps it had adapted to Capini's butterfly shadow, or perhaps it was a blind man meeting a dead mouse. In any case, the instant the Galactic Assault Gundam rushed in front of it, Capini's butterfly shadow, which was originally struggling on the ground, suddenly released a floating cannon. Oh ho! I almost got hit. The instant the floating cannon was about to fire, Lingshire reacted quickly and immediately had Capini, Gouda, dodge to the other side. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Capini actually slowly stood up. Bart's voice came from within his body. Hey you don't dare to come over, right? This is our research institute's greatest masterpiece. Although I don't know why I'm here, that won't stop me from defeating a hindrance like you. The floating cannon's successful attack gave Bart a trace of confidence. Thus, he, who believed that he could obtain victory, began to attack. 1. The floating cannons moved swiftly through the forest, continuously firing beams of light at the Gundams of interstellar creation. Although the attack seemed fierce, Lingshire didn't feel any pressure at all. This was because Capini's combat strength had dropped too much, not even reaching a third of Ella's standard. Cheng, don't you find it strange? What? Lingshire, what do you want to ask? The opponent is too weak. It's clearly the semifinals, but they suddenly switched out a person with inferior skills. Isn't this giving victory to us? While Kapaini, Gauda, shot after shot at the floating cannon, Lingshire once again asked a question. Probably. They realized that they were wrong? When this reason came out, Makoto Ito felt that even he couldn't believe it. Is that so? Then, let's just send them out. Unexpectedly, Lingshire seemed to believe this reason and planned to carry it out. 1. Kapaini, Gauda, stepped on the ground and fiercely increased the power of the thrusters to the maximum. Turning into a stream of light, he quickly shuttled through the forest and rushed towards Kapaini. Hit him! Hit! Kapaini! Hit him! Nainbart once again fell into a state of panic. He continuously tried to control the remaining floating cannon to stop Kapaini, Gauda. However, the floating cannon that he could control just now was like a stone sinking into the ocean, without a sound. Furthermore, when Kapaini, Gauda's fist, arrived in front of him, Nainbart discovered that Kapaini, was unable to move again. Move! Why aren't you moving? Kapaini! Amidst Nainbart's desperate shout, Kapaini, Gauda's iron fist, smashed onto Kapaini's face. When Kapaini was sent flying, the decorative armor on its face scattered onto the ground. And? It's actually not resisting? Lingshire raised his eyebrows strangely and shook his head. Forget it. Let's fight first and talk later. Bang! Let you control Ella. Kapaini flew into the air. Bang! The interstellar creation Assault Gundam sent Butterfly Shadow Kapaini flying into a tree with a whip kick. Let you threaten Ella with food. Woo! The wind from the fist suddenly rose. Kapaini, Gauda, was sent flying into a tree trunk with a heavy punch. Looking at Kapaini, who was being beaten up by Kapaini, Gauda, the corner of Rei Minkai's mouth twitched slightly. What the hell is going on? A farce? Rei Minkai looked left and right and discovered that the audience's expressions were similar to his. They were all baffled, but at the same time they also wanted to laugh. This is... Aaron, what exactly happened? Kawaguchi Minami, who was standing on the other side, was also dumbstruck. I also don't know what is going on. As the director of PPSE's development department, Aaron also shook his head indifferently. Big, it's probably. Euphemia, who had a very strong sixth sense, pulled on Rei Minkai's sleeve and stealthily pointed at VIP Room 1. Looking at the room, Rei Minkai shrugged his shoulders helplessly. Perhaps that was really the case. From the looks of it, the semifinals between Makoto Ito and Lingshire ended in such a farce. One punch. Amidst Nainbart's miserable shriek, Gauda, Kapaini's upper body was smashed into pieces by Interstellar's right fist, ending the semifinals that had a strong start but a weak finish. The match had ended. Although the audience was a little baffled, they still gave a warm applause. Yay! The punishment is over. In VIP Room 1, the two sisters who were stirring up trouble at the spur of the moment cheered loudly. Cough cough. Don't do it again. The old man couldn't help but stand out and let the sisters calm down. Got it. Grandpa. Baker, who was standing guard at the door, was also a little baffled. Even though she was looking at Mimi and her sister from a close distance, what she knew wasn't much more than what the audience outside knew. The only thing she knew was that the commotion caused by the Palevsky particle had subsided. Chairman, is there anything else you need? In order to dispel her awkwardness, Baker asked respectfully. No need. That's it. You can announce the candidates for the finals that will be held a week later. Baker. Mimi waved her hand and casually instructed. Baker had some understanding of the existence of the authority, but the less she knew, the better it would be for her life. Of course. If the president really wanted to tell Beck more information, the authority wouldn't stop him. In any case, the two of them wouldn't be able to cause any trouble. Yes. Then, I will take my leave first. Chairman. Go! After Baker closed the door, Mimi moved her hands, looked at the old man, and said, Grandpa, the finals will be held a week later. The finals are in a week. Are you going to stay here and wait? Or? The old man smiled slightly and shook his head. I won't stay here. I have something to do at the Guiana Plateau. Guiana Plateau? Are you talking about the new disciples that Uncle Doman recently accepted? Little Snow thought for a moment and asked. Yes, that's one of the reasons. The old man nodded. How about this, since there is still a week before the finals, why don't we go to the Guiana Plateau with you, Grandpa? Mimi suggested. Yes. Come to think of it, we haven't been to the Guiana Plateau for several years. Little Snow nodded again and again. There was a trace of expectation and yearning in her expression. It's fine if Mimi goes. Little Snow, if you go, won't you chase Kong and the others away? Although the old man didn't object to Mimi and her sister going to the Guiana Plateau with him, the power of Little Snow's humanoid nuclear bomb against the herd was too strong. Every time she appeared in the Guiana Plateau, the nearby herds would immediately smell the danger and try their best to escape to a safe place. Grandpa, you're really something. I was just playful when I was young and beat them up a few times. Little Snow curled her lips and snorted a few times. Who told them to chase me all day when I first went to the Guiana Plateau, wanting to eat me? Chapter 171. The Steel Pulla Battle World Competition had entered the final round of the finals. Before the finals, there would be a week for the two players who advanced to the finals to rest. Of course, during this week, the organizers wouldn't just let the audience from all over the world wait for the competition. Therefore, wow! So high! It's many times higher than our nightmare. Early in the morning, Euphemia, who was very interested in the 7-day celebration, dragged Ray Minkai, who wanted to sleep in, to the celebration site. As soon as they entered the door, Euphemia's attention was attracted by the two 1 replicas of the MS model that the organizer had specially brought over from the stage. She pulled Lei Minkai to walk around them. RX-78-2, Gouda, commonly known as the ancestor of Gouda. He is the founder of the Gouda series and other MS models. Ray Minkai faced Euphemia's question and explained to Euphemia the knowledge that she already knew without any difficulty. After all, during this period of time, Her Royal Highness had put in a lot of effort to cram in the knowledge of the Gouda series. Now, the reason why she asked this question was to cultivate the tacit understanding between the two. Red Zagu, pilot is Shea Aznable. At this time, a familiar voice sounded from the side. Ray Minkai and Euphemia looked back and found an acquaintance looking at them with a smile. Now, should I call you a celebrity? Or Tatsuya Yuki? Ray Minkai smiled slightly, looked at the clothes on the person's body, and asked jokingly. Just call me Daya. It's rare for me to have the opportunity to dress up like this. Let me have a good rest. Kawaguchi, no, now it should be Tatsuya Yuki. He shook his head slightly, calmly indicating that the identity of Kawaguchi's celebrity was indeed a burden for him. Hello, Tatsuya Yuki. Euphemia greeted him with a smile. Good morning, Miss Euphemia. Looks like you're looking forward to this celebration. Then, I won't disturb you. Have a good time. Tatsuya Yuki's eyes were sharp, and he immediately saw through Ray Minkai and Euphemia's intentions. Therefore, after greeting them, he tactfully found an excuse to leave. Ray Minkai shook his head helplessly as he watched Tatsuya Yuki leave. Whether it's Kawaguchi celebrity or Tatsuya Yuki, this guy really likes to act cool. Euphemia looked back at Ray Minkai. Perhaps this is just his personality. Probably. Immediately, Euphemia's attention returned to the ancestor Gao De and Hong Jia-gu, who were standing side by side. Kai. Although I have seen the information of Gao De and Jia-gu from the information looking at the one model, it is higher than our nightmare. If the real Gao De ran to our hometown, what would the situation be like? Ray Minkai pondered for a moment, and after comparing the performance of the mass-produced mecha except for the elite mecha such as Lancelot, the result was obvious. Vulnerable. The answer was cruel. The reality was even more cruel. Except for a few elite pilots like Ray Minkai and Lancelot's elite mecha, the other pilots and Nightmare would only face one situation when faced with the attack of MS. It was a one-sided slaughter. Is that so? Euphemia frowned. Indeed. Ray Minkai nodded. In addition, Ray Minkai still had a key factor that he did not tell Euphemia. That was the ability of GESS. According to the original setting, in the Britannia Empire, in addition to His Majesty the Emperor and Lu Lucio, there were several GES ability users. Even if these people drove the mass-produced Nightmare to fight against MS, there was a considerable chance that they could win. Especially the Knight of the Round Table, Bismarck Waldstein. The GESS ability he possessed was invincible. If it weren't for the fact that Vermilion Bird's GES ability was a little strange, this Knight of the Round Table would have been invincible. Then, what about Pirate Gouda? I remember that Pirate Gouda is only 13 meters tall? Euphemia looked left and right for a while, then suddenly remembered something and asked. Yes. When Pirate Gouda was created, the technology used was far beyond the era when progenitor Gouda was born. Therefore, Pirate Gouda is only strong, not weak. Ray Minkai nodded and made a simple explanation. I see. Euphemia responded dully, and then happily pulled Ray Minkai and asked him to take dozens of photos of herself, progenitor Gouda, and Hong Jia-gu. UFFI, aren't we taking too many photos? In the end, Lei Minkai felt that these group photos were a little too much. After taking a few photos, only Euphemia was not standing on the shoulders of progenitor Gouda and Hong Jia-gu. Is that so? Euphemia blinked and reluctantly walked down from the stage and returned to Ray Minkai. While looking at the photos projected from the personal terminal, she muttered, If I show these photos to Royal Sister, I wonder what her expression will be like. Ray Minkai suddenly sweated. UFFI. If you want Her Highness Cornelia to know about MS and Nightmare, it's best to use the real thing as a comparison. Euphemia was taken aback and asked subconsciously, Do we have MS in our hands? Are we going to take the Steel Pulla model and go back to tell Royal Sister that Steel Pulla is better than Nightmare? Ray Minkai sweated again. Ahem. UFFI. Have you forgotten that the prize we won in the death race has not been honored yet? Death race. Euphemia lowered her head and thought, then exclaimed. Right. I remember. Lei said that after the test mission is over, he will send us MS. Right? Yes. UFFI. At that time, we can use the Pirate Gouda to let Her Highness Cornelia know the difference between Nightmare and MS. Although Ray Minkai did not know why Euphemia was a little silly today, this feeling seemed pretty good. Understood. Euphemia nodded, and then her gaze was attracted by the crowd in another direction. There seemed to be holding an event related to food. There was no need to think. There was no need to look. Today. Ray Minkai's wallet was about to bleed. After a round, Ray Minkai held a pile of packed food in his arms, and Euphemia held a serving of octopus in her hand. They looked around for a place where they could sit down and enjoy the food. However, due to the dense flow of people, there was not even a place for Ray Minkai and Euphemia to sit down in the area close to the food event area. Helpless, Ray Minkai and Euphemia could only walk through several areas and come to the amusement area with relatively fewer people. They found a place to sit down. There are so many people. As soon as she sat down, Euphemia let out a sigh of relief. This celebration was undoubtedly new and exciting for Euphemia. As the third princess, Euphemia had never been so close to a commoner's celebration. This made her feel very novel. No matter what, it's a world-class competition. In this regard, the organizers will not be vague. Naturally, the bigger the better. The more people, the better. Ray Minkai placed the food in his arms on the table one by one and immediately felt a headache. When he was in charge of giving the money just now, he did not feel anything. When he put the food down, he found that it had exceeded the amount of food that Euphemia could cope with. Judging from the current situation, today's lunch and even dinner, Ray Minkai could find food and clothing from the snacks on the table. UFFI, should we? Ray Minkai's mouth twitched. When he tried to let Euphemia understand the current situation, a burst of crying suddenly came to their ears from not far away. What's wrong? As soon as Euphemia heard the crying, she immediately looked around. Ray Minkai immediately stood up and asked Euphemia to sit down and wait for a while, then he looked in the direction of the crying. As a result, he found that there were 2 children squatting next to the flower bed not far from their position. The crying came from among them. Kai, what happened? Euphemia, who could not bear the worry, left her seat and found this side. It's the little boy and the little girl. They seem to have lost their way. Ray Minkai pointed at the 2 children. After briefly telling Euphemia his conjecture, he looked around to see if there was anyone nearby who was looking for their children. In this kind of international large-scale event, it was common for children to get lost. Looking around, Ray Minkai did not find anyone looking for their children. Most of them were just spectators. Euphemia came to the 2 children early and asked in a soft voice what had happened. Under Euphemia's gentle persuasion, the 2 children quickly stopped crying and intermittently recounted how they had been separated from their parents. As expected, UFFI, let's bring them over to sit for a while. The staff will come over later. After confirming the situation, Ray Minkai used his personal terminal to send a message to the organizers' specially set-up communication channel. The other party quickly replied and asked Ray Minkai to bring the 2 children to wait for a while. Okay. Euphemia nodded and pulled the 2 children back to their seat. She then distributed the snacks that she had bought earlier to the 2 children. But the 2 children refused to accept it. The older boy shook his head at the younger girl, then he looked up at Euphemia and said, "Big sister, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Thank you. But Mom taught us that we can't take other people's food for free." However, under this seemingly unyielding answer, there was a thunderous rumble in his stomach. The little girl was hungry. The little girl's big eyes wandered around the octopus soup in Euphemia's hand for a while. She forced herself to hold back her saliva and turned to look at her brother. At this moment, the little boy's stomach also started to rumble. Ray Minkai saw this and shook his head in amusement. He reached out and picked up a piece of octopus soup. He threw it into his mouth and said while eating, "Look, these are all the food that brother and sister just bought." Goog! Seeing Ray Minkai swallow the octopus soup, the 2 children's stomachs started to rumble even louder. Wah! In an instant, the little girl cried again. Euphemia was scared and comforted her. She picked up a piece of octopus soup and handed it over. But the little girl didn't take it. Even though her eyes were filled with tears, she still looked at her brother and refused to let go. The little boy gritted his teeth and his expression was very shaken. Suddenly, the little boy's struggling eyes lit up. After he whispered in the little girl's ear, the 2 children jumped down from their seats and ran toward the amusement area not far away. Wait, wait! This sudden change almost made Euphemia unable to react. Fortunately, Ray Minkai's reaction was fast enough. He shouted for Euphemia to calm down and chased after them. But when Ray Minkai just caught up to a stall, he saw the 2 children fumble in the bag for a while, then handed something similar to a test paper to the stall owner. Then, the two children excitedly and confidently took an air gun from the boss. They skillfully and quickly aimed at the gift behind the counter. Moreover, the moment the little boy fired, Ray Minkai heard a very subtle line. Rock Stratos sniper target. Bang! The half-human tall Xiong Ba doll, which was placed at the top, was the hardest to aim at, and was the first prize, was hit under the boss's stunned expression. Chapter 172. Lei Minkai looked at the surprised Euphemia, who was hugging the half-a-man tall tyrant bear plushie, then at the box of Strength Angel Gundam models in front of him. He then raised his head to look at the two kids who were sitting opposite him and sharing the octopus dumplings equally. Lei Minkai could not help but reveal a helpless smile. It turned out that in the beginning, the two kids didn't trust him and Euphemia, but they also didn't want to eat for free. Until he couldn't hold on any longer, the little boy suddenly remembered that when he entered the celebration venue, he received a free ticket that could be used to exchange for any amusement facility or booth. That was why the scene from before had occurred. Euphemia's tyrant bear plushie and the Strength Angel Gao Da's steel pulla model in front of him were the prizes that the two kids shot down in front of the shooting booth owner. Ray Minkai and Euphemia looked at each other and smiled. They didn't expect that in the end it would be like this. Two little friends. Thank you for your gift. My name is Euphemia Lee Britannia. What are your names? After Euphemia put the tyrant bear plushie aside, she tried to communicate with the two kids who were eating the octopus yaki. Oh. I'm our Dilantai. She's my sister, her name is Feani Dilantai. After the little boy swallowed the octopus yaki in his mouth, he first pointed at himself, then pointed at his sister and introduced himself. Hello, Sister Euphemia. I'm Feani Dilantai. Thank you and big brother. The little girl showed a shy smile to Ray Minkai and Euphemia. Dilantai. When Lei Minkai heard this surname, he immediately recalled what the little boy had said at the shooting booth before he started shooting. Lei Minkai was about to finish the octopus and took another serving of shumai from the other side of the table. Come, there's more here. Don't choke. Lei Minkai opened the box containing the shumai and handed it over. He pretended to be indifferent and asked casually, What's wrong? Your name is Dilantai, right? Just now, when I saw you beating the Tyrant Bear doll and the Strength Angel Gao Da's steel pulla model, you seemed to have said something. That's what you shouted, right? With that said, Ray Minkai imitated the little boy and repeated the dialogue just now. But unexpectedly, when she heard Ray Minkai repeat the conversation just now, the obedient little girl suddenly reached out and pinched the little boy. She said reproachfully, Stupid brother. I told you not to learn from your father. Now we've been seen. The little boy, who was about to pick up the shumai to eat, was suddenly pinched by the little girl. He looked up blankly at Ray Minkai and nodded. Yes, that's right. That's something my father would only say when he's on a mission. Isn't it cool? As the little boy spoke, he also stretched out his hands and gestured. He even tightened his face and put on a focused look. This appearance also made Ray Minkai have some guesses in his mind. Dilantai. Lokong. If this surname and name were combined with the current world, then there should be only one result. The two children sitting in front of him were likely to be the children of Lokong Stratos. It's just that he didn't know if they were Uncle Luo's or Brother Luo's. After thinking about this, Ray Minkai subconsciously began to observe the appearance of the two children. The same brown hair, green pupils. Except that Ray Minkai didn't know the details of Lokong's appearance at this time, it seemed that there were indeed some shadows of the Lokong that Ray Minkai was familiar with. Found the target. Sneaky siblings. At this moment, a sharp voice unique to a teenager sounded next to them. Everyone looked over and found two little boys who seemed to be printed from the same mold. They were about the same age as and pointed at and Fiani, who were eating shumai. Kai. Their faces are very similar to Or's. As soon as Euphemia saw the faces of the two little boys, she pulled Ray Minkai and said softly, "Yes, they should be twins." Ray Minkai's gaze looked at the faces of the two little boys a few times, then shifted to Or's face. Indeed, their faces were really similar. Are they really the children of Uncle Luo and Brother Luo? It's you. As soon as Or saw them, he was first shocked, then immediately stuffed the shumai into the arms of his sister Fianni. While blocking in front of her, he shouted, "This is the shumai that I exchanged with my own hands. I can't give it to you, brother. Actually, it's okay to give it to Brother Rawl. We can't finish it anyway." Fianni whispered a few times behind Or's back and looked at the food that was still on the table. "No. This is the food that we exchanged with our own hands. We can't just let them eat it for free." Unexpectedly, Or's persistence surprised Ray Minkai and Euphemia a little. Logically speaking, with such similar faces, their relationship should not be considered close, but it should not be too far off. Why did Or's attitude look like he was guarding against thieves? Fianni's little mouth moved, but in the end, she did not continue to insist. "TCA, who cares about your food? It's just that we're here to find you." The little boy standing on the left snorted and looked at Or with some disdain. "I didn't expect that when we were looking for you, you were hiding here and eating. Good. When Andy comes, you'll get it. So what? Even if Mom comes, these are the things that we exchanged with our own hands." Or continued to insist. "Ahem. Okay. Stop arguing. Or aren't you going to introduce your brothers, friends?" Ray Minkai coughed and tried to ease the atmosphere. Who's friends with them?" Or curled his lips and then obediently introduced to Ray Minkai. "On the left is LOL Delantai, on the right is El Delantai. They're my and Fianni's cousins. Hello. I'm Ray Minkai, this is Euphemia Libritania. Just now we happened to meet Or and Fianni, so we notified the organizer and waited here for someone to pick them up." Ray Minkai introduced himself in a friendly manner and then asked, "You're the only ones who came to pick them up?" The two little boys looked at each other and sized up Ray Minkai and Euphemia before shaking their heads and saying in unison, "No. We were just playing around. We were just playing around and saw Or and Fianni eating here, so we came over." "Like I said. You saw us eating, that's why you came running over." After hearing Rawl and El's confession, the little boy became even more protective of his sister. Fianni still hadn't finished eating the steamed dumai in her arms. Okay. You're hungry too, right? Let's eat together. There's so much to eat here anyway. Or, Fianni, is that okay?" At this time, Euphemia came out to smooth things over. Looking at the gentle smile on Euphemia's face, Or, who was already reluctant, finally nodded and moved in with his sister to make room for Sophia. "Thank you, big sister. Thank you, big brother." When Rawl and Roland saw this, they thanked Lei Minkai and Euphemia again in unison. They then sat down as if they were familiar with the place and skillfully reached for the food on the table. "Hey, that's ours. You guys eat that." When the LOL brothers reached out, or began to grumble again. "Who said so? You obviously didn't take it, and this box is still intact." LOL glanced at Or and retorted, This is something I exchanged with my own hands. If I say it is, then it is." Or clenched his teeth and said firmly, "Pa." Ray Minkai saw that they were about to quarrel again and immediately knocked on each of their heads. "There's still a lot of food. If it's not enough, I can go buy more. What's there to quarrel about? Look at Fianni, El, and the others. Isn't it good to eat quietly?" Or and Rawl turned their heads to look and found that their younger brother and sister were really sitting quietly in their seats, slowly eating their food. "I'll deal with you after we finish eating." Thus, after the vicious words were said in unison, there was a slightly loud chewing sound. Was this a competition to see who could eat faster? Ray Minkai and Euphemia looked at the quickly disappearing food on the table, and smiled helplessly again. What, these two little brats are fighting so fiercely? Féanie and Els, on the other hand, were quietly and obediently eating the food in front of them. They didn't fight with each other like their older brothers, who wanted to take all the food in their hand. Kai, should we order some takeout? Euphemia saw that more than half of the food on the table had been consumed and couldn't help but ask. I'll order now. Fortunately, this celebration had a takeout service, so Ray Minkai didn't have to repeat the previous experience of holding a huge pile of food and swaggering through the street. Lei Minkai ordered another takeout according to the food preferences of this group of brats. Then, he set his eyes on the Rollel's brothers who had just arrived. You're LOL, Hazel, right? I'm LOL, Hazel. Thank you, big brother, for treating us to food. After LOL ate the last meatball, he answered Ray Minkai's question with a trace of satisfaction. You only know how to eat for free. These are the things I exchanged with my spoils of war. L, who was indignant about LOL eating all the meatballs, retorted loudly. Spoils of war? When LOL heard this, he subconsciously looked at the tyrant bear doll placed beside Euphemia, and the strength angel Gao de Steel Pulla placed in front of Ray Minkai. Oh, so that's how it is. L, you actually used your mediocre skills to trick people. TSK, this is nothing. L, let's go. Let L see a real sniper. After making his declaration, Raul completely ignored Orr's clamor. He directly pulled his younger brother and ran towards the shooting booth like a wisp of smoke. Ray Minkai blinked and hesitated in his heart. Should he follow them? Or should he just sit here and wait? Kai, why don't you follow them? Euphemia also hesitated. Judging from the behavior of the Our brothers just now, they should be very familiar with the situation here. Ray Minkai nodded, and just as he was about to get up and chase after them, he did not expect L and L to join forces and carry a tyrant bear doll that was bigger than the previous one that was half the height of a person. So fast. Ray Minkai was stunned and subconsciously looked up at the shooting booth. Even through the endless stream of people, Lei Minkai could still see that the owner of the shooting booth was on the verge of tears. It was estimated that not many owners of shooting booths would be kicked twice in less than half an hour. Moreover, the ones who kicked him were 4 little brats. Was there anything more tragic than this? The sniping talent of these children can't be so terrifying, right? In his previous life, Ray Minkai was also addicted to street shooting games for a while. He knew that the booth owner would definitely do something to the air gun in order to make more money, thus increasing the difficulty of the customers. However, even so, these crafty fellows were still able to hit the target with almost 100% accuracy. How could the children of Rune Stratos be so terrifying? Come, big sister, big brother. In order to thank you for treating us to food, these are my gifts to you in return. L and L put the bigger tyrant bear doll on the table with some effort and said to Euphemia, Hey, thank you. Although Euphemia was a little surprised, she still happily accepted it. Her Royal Highness the Third Princess was very pleased with the thoughts of the children. Here. This is for you, big brother. Elle touched the back of the tyrant bear doll and handed the cherub Gao de Steel Pulla model to Ray Minkai. Okay. In less than half an hour, Ray Minkai collected the cherub Gao de brothers, Strength Angel and Cherub. Or, L, your father is also called Rune Stratos. Yes. Our father is the best. Nonsense. My father is the real Rune Stratos. As soon as he heard the L brothers, Raul, who was busy eating, immediately refuted. You are the one who is talking nonsense. Our father is the real Rune Stratos. The L brothers, who were not to be outdone, immediately counterattacked. Why are they fighting again? This sudden turn of events made Ray Minkai and Euphemia a little surprised. They were talking nicely just now. Why are they looking like they want to fight again? Fortunately, when the 3 brats bared their fangs, two voices rang out behind them at the same time. Two pairs of large hands appeared and suppressed the three brats who were about to open their mouth. Yes, yes, yes. They are all Rune Stratos. Is that okay? Brats. It is just a mission name. Every time they would fight to the death. Ryle, your brats should be taught. Neil, isn't your brats the same? But you are much luckier than me. At least you have such a well-behaved daughter like Phéanie. Hey. Of course. Don't you know whose daughter she is? Chapter 173. Rock Leon Stratos. 2 generations of Rock Leon Stratos were standing in front of him, each holding their own children and lecturing them. This scene was something that Lei Mingkai would not be able to forget for a very long time. Dad, Big Brother and Big Sister are here. Don't lecture them for now, okay? Phéanie, who had been sitting there eating obediently, saw that her brother was about to be scolded. She turned her eyes and revealed a timid expression. Okay. This seemingly obedient little girl wasn't easy to deal with. Hearing Phéanie's words, the 2 Rock Leon also understood the current situation. After looking at each other, they introduced themselves to Lei Mingkai one after another. You should be the young knight Lei Mingkai who brought the princess to Starlight City? I am Neil Delantai. I am Lyle Delantai. These brats really need you to take care of them. Otherwise, if you let them run around, it would make it hard for us parents to find them. Hello. I am Lei Mingkai. Nice to meet you. I am Euphemia Lee Britannia. Nice to meet you. When the truth was in front of him, Lei Mingkai found that he was much calmer. Ever since he came to this world, more and more famous people appeared in front of him, and he seemed to have gradually adapted to this new life. As expected, it's the knight and the princess. Lyle looked left and right at Lei Mingkai and Euphemia, and revealed an expression of as expected. Alright, Lyle, it's time for us to bring these brats back. Otherwise, Faye won't be able to wait. Neil shook his head and revealed an apologetic expression. Lei Mingkai and Princess Euphemia, thank you very much for taking care of these brats. Unfortunately, we have some urgent matters to take care of and have to leave immediately, so please forgive us. No need. It's not a problem. We are also very happy to have met you. Especially these children, if there's a chance next time, please let them come and play with us. Euphemia smiled and waved her hand. Then, she suddenly thought of something. I'm afraid we won't be able to meet here next time. Neil and Lyle smiled at each other. Neil said, I understand very well. But I'm sure we'll meet again soon. At that time, I hope these brats won't cause any trouble for Her Highness. No. I'm looking forward to that day. After Euphemia finished speaking, she bent down, extended her hand, and shook hands with Raoul, Phéanie, and Or with a smile. Raoul, Phéanie, I'll be waiting for you guys to come and play with me. Good. Big sister. We have a deal. The 4 little ones replied in unison. Lei Mingkai. This is our contact method. Contact us when it's convenient. When the time comes, we'll prepare a thank you gift for you. Lyle snapped his fingers, and an email containing their contact information was sent to Lei Mingkai's personal terminal. There's no need for a gift. As long as you treat me and UFFI as friends, it's fine. Lei Mingkai shook his head, indicating that there was no need to go through so much trouble. Of course. Otherwise, these brats' mother will give me and Neil a headache for half a day. Ahem, alright. Let's go. Seeing that Lyle was about to turn into an uncle complaining, Neil hurriedly coughed and took the lead, pulling his brats and turning to leave. Bye-bye, young knight and princess. After watching the 2 Rockies leave with their children, Euphemia sighed. They look like good fathers. When Lei Mingkai heard this, he immediately realized something. Even though she was born in the royal family of the Britannia Empire, Euphemia's childhood only had memories of Cornelia and Lucio. Towards her elders, other than being afraid of her father, who was actually the Emperor of the Empire in name, there was only her longing for Princess Mariana v. Britannia. Therefore, Euphemia had never experienced the kinship between a father and a son. UFFI. Let's go. Otherwise, we might not be able to walk later. In order to deliberately divert Euphemia's attention, Ray Minkai chose the two half-a-person tall tyrant bear dolls as his targets. That's right. Then, let's hurry back. Sure enough, when she saw more and more people, Euphemia immediately felt a headache from the two large dolls. That faint melancholy from before also vanished like smoke into thin air. Fortunately, when Ray Minkai and Euphemia were about to bring the two dolls back to the contestants' dormitory, their savior appeared. Beep beep. Two distinguished guests, where do you want to go? Ray Minkai poked his head out from behind the dolls and saw Aslan, who he hadn't seen for a long time, still driving his eye-catching red sports car, and parked it not far away. Aslan, I haven't seen you for a few days. After letting out a sigh of relief, Ray Minkai helped Euphemia put the dolls in the back compartment while greeting Aslan. Yes, after all, you were working hard to advance to the finals at that time. I didn't want to disturb you. Aslan nodded and then said, but congratulations on making it to the finals. Thank you. Now that I think about it, it was quite a hard time. Ray Minkai sighed. Yes. Before the semi-finals, we worked day and night to make and modify the steel pulla model. Euphemia also nodded and sighed. But what you have to do now is to relax. Despite saying so, Aslan showed a hint of seriousness. Kai. We have to leave Shizuoka immediately. Right now. Why? Is there a mission? Ray Minkai frowned and asked. No. Not at all. But your kitten is about to wake up. In the end, Aslan could no longer maintain the seriousness on his face, and almost collapsed. Kitten? Ray Minkai and Euphemia said in unison. Late at night, under Aslan's driving, the sports car carrying Ray Minkai and Euphemia slowly drove into Sinman and Meriton's villa. As soon as they entered the door, the first to be scared was Aslan. And what scared him was actually jumping all over the floor. A little toy with a round body, Harrow. Harrow. Guess. Harrow. Aslan. Harrow. Kai. Harrow. UFFI. Looking at Harrow jumping all over the yard, Aslan's expression was frozen. This thing was not unfamiliar to Aslan. In his youth, Aslan had personally made many Harrow and gave them to Lux as a gift. He didn't expect that today, more than 10 years later, he would once again see Harrow jumping all over the floor. This Harrow! Aslan was stunned. He subconsciously looked at Harrow, who was jumping all over the ground. He tried to find the mark that Harrow should have on him in his memory. In the end, he found nothing. It's not that person's Harrow. After confirming this situation, Aslan slowly breathed a sigh of relief. If he could not meet that person, it would be best not to. Otherwise, if he saw the face that was similar to his late wife Mia's, Aslan did not know how he should face it. Ray Minkai, who was standing at the side, glanced at Aslan and seemed to have guessed what was on Aslan's mind. This is a Harrow made by Professor Shi Hui from the Ministry of Justice. Although it is very similar to the Harrow you made in the past, it is not the same on the inside. When Ray Minkai was explaining, Euphemia also made a timely demonstration for Aslan. Harrow, come here. Help me inform the professor that we are back. As Euphemia waved her hand, a pink Harrow jumped out from the jumping Harrow all over the floor and landed in Euphemia's hands. Then, it flipped up and unfolded a holographic projection in midair. Harrow? What's the matter? On the screen, a woman in a white coat was standing in front of the control panel with her back facing the camera, constantly adjusting the equipment. She was Shi Hui from the Ministry of Justice, whom Aslan had not seen for a long time. Professor, it's me, Ray Minkai. Euphemia and I and Aslan are back. Ray Minkai spoke, trying to draw Shi Hui's attention back from the control panel. Oh? It's Guy and UFFI. Yes, and the newcomer Aslan Sala is here too. Come over. Hera will lead the way. After saying that, Hui, who was still adjusting the equipment, turned off the communication without looking back. It really wasn't me who made the harrow. After the communication was turned off, Aslan looked at the pink harrow that had returned to its original form and was turning slowly in Euphemia's hands and sighed. After all, it has been more than 10 years, hasn't it, Aslan? Ray Minkai said. Yes, more than 10 years. Now, this is my only wish. Aslan nodded, and his right hand subconsciously touched his left wrist. Seeing this, Ray Minkai and Euphemia did not say much. After letting Harrow and the rest lead the way, the three of them walked past the villa and came to the back garden. They entered the elevator that led to the underground laboratory and went straight down. Ding dong! When the elevator door opened, they saw Hui, who was waiting at the entrance of the elevator. Long time no see. Guy UFFI. And the newcomer Aslan Sala, welcome. I'm Hui from the Research Institute. In the future, we will have many opportunities to work together. After greeting Ray Minkai and Euphemia, Hui turned her attention to Aslan. Hello. Doctor, I'm Aslan Sala. I will look forward to working with you. Aslan nodded calmly. All right. Everyone is here. In that case, come with me. Guy, your kitten has entered the energy saturation period. She will wake up in a few days. As soon as he turned around, Hui from the Ministry of Justice once again confirmed this important piece of news for Lei Minkai. State 0, is she going to wake up? Yes. Kitten has slept enough, she will naturally wake up. Chapter 174. In his free time, Ray Minkai had imagined what it would be like when State 0, which looked like a kitten but was actually a steel lion that was 10 meters tall and nearly 30 meters long, woke up. Would it let out an earth-shattering roar after struggling to break free from the safety lock that restricted its freedom? Or would it wave its laser claws that emitted a terrifying light and destroy everything, venting the energy that it had accumulated from its long slumber? These messy thoughts all collapsed when he saw the white cat lying on the table, occasionally reaching out its paws to play with the fur ball on the table. This? State 0? Ray Minkai pointed at the white cat in surprise. Although Ray Minkai could tell at first glance that the white cat was State 0, its current behavior was completely different from what Ray Minkai remembered. From the looks of it, it was just like a house cat that was attracted by the fur ball. This is State 0? Unlike the surprised Ray Minkai, Euphemia, who saw State 0 for the first time, quickly picked up the fur ball that was sent flying by State 0, handed it over, and played with State 0. On the other hand, Aslan, who did not know much about the situation, stood aside obediently and became a silent audience. Sigh, there seems to be a problem. Ministry of Justice Hui shrugged her shoulders, took out a chocolate bar from her pocket, and said while holding it in her mouth. According to the situation that I just checked, it seems that there is too much energy. State 0's main consciousness seems to be in a deeper state of recuperation. Ray Minkai listened, touched his chin, and thought for a while. In other words, the current State 0 is just a house cat? Ministry of Justice Hui bit off a section of the chocolate bar, chewed and said vaguely, You can say that. State 0's current state should be the white cat's instinct controlling the body. It's really a cat. After playing with the fur ball for a while, Euphemia hugged State 0 in her arms. State 0 rubbed Euphemia's arms, then lay comfortably in Euphemia's arms and closed its eyes. It looked just like a docile house cat. Maybe it's because I was too careless. According to the original plan, the energy absorption should have stopped 3 days ago, but because I was delayed by research at that time, it ended up like this. Ministry of Justice Hui helplessly patted her forehead and shook her head in distress. As a rigorous scientific researcher, she should not have made such a low-level mistake. 3 days ago? Ray Minkai and Euphemia said in unison. Wasn't it when we entered the top 16? Immediately, Ray Minkai also helplessly shook his head and looked at the white cat that was snoring comfortably under Euphemia's touch. Doctor, when will State Zero's consciousness wake up? This will depend on its own ability. After all, the consequence of excessive energy absorption is either being stuffed to death or taking a long time to digest it. Looking at the current situation, there is no possibility of State Zero being stuffed to death. If there is, it will only take a long time to digest it. Finally, Ministry of Justice Shi Hui came to a conclusion about State Zero's current situation. Looks like you have to bring this cat to the finals. Aslan, who had been watching for a long time, also said the problem that gave Ray Minkai a headache. Could it be that they had to bring State Zero to the Steel Pulla platform during the finals? Kai, bring State Zero back first. Maybe it will wake up tomorrow. Euphemia really liked State Zero in its current state. It was gentle, soft, and warm from head to toe. It felt great to the touch. Looking at State Zero's soft appearance, Ray Minkai could not help but sigh in his heart. Could that domineering and mighty steel lion come back? The answer to this question could not be found in a short period of time. What Ray Minkai knew was that when he bid farewell to Ministry of Justice Shi Hui the next morning and Aslan sent them back to the conference venue, State Zero, which only followed the instincts of a cat, once again conquered Takasaka Kanna and Ella, who met Ray Minkai and the rest by chance. Wow. What a cute kitten. Miss Euphemia, is this your pet? Takasaka Kanna, who loved cats, could not take her eyes off State Zero lying in Euphemia's arms. You can say so. Its name is State Zero. Euphemia nodded and admitted this relationship. According to the usual practice, State Zero was indeed being raised by Ray Minkai and Euphemia. On the other side, Ray Minkai, who had just watched Aslan leave, had just taken a few steps towards Euphemia and the rest when he was blocked by a figure. Yo, do you have time to talk to me? A red short shirt, a hearty smile, a determined silhouette, and a face that was similar to Makoto Ito's. The identity of the person in front of him was obvious. He was Makoto Ito's father, the 3rd Fleet's MS Force Captain, Colonel E.Z. I'm free, Colonel. Ray Minkai immediately stood at attention and saluted E.Z. while shouting loudly. Euphemia, who was talking about State Zero with Takasaka Kanna and the rest, also heard the commotion, but after seeing Ray Minkai's signal secretly sent over, she no longer paid attention to the situation at Ray Minkai's side. Haha. There's no need to be so grand. Besides, you're not an official inspector of the administration yet. Between us, it's better to be casual. EZ returned the salute and slapped Ray Minkai's shoulder. Yes, Mr. EZ. I've really lost to you, kid. EZ shook his head helplessly and did not bother about the issue of how to address him. Instead, he brought Ray Minkai to the other side. Facing the breeze from the sea, EZ's voice reached Ray Minkai's ears. First of all, congratulations on entering the finals. I didn't expect that there would be someone who accepted my willful mission. EZ laughed and showed an awkward expression. Could it be that Mr. EZ thought it was fun when you issued the mission? Ray Minkai heard and asked subconsciously. EZ shrugged his shoulders and said calmly, Yes. Just now when I came down from the front line, I casually opened my personal terminal and saw the news that the Steel Pulla Battle World Tournament had started. Then, you thought it was fun and treated your son, Makoto Ito, as a boss, and put it on the preliminary team's trial mission? Ha 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 ha. You're absolutely right. That's it. When EZ heard Ray Minkai's speculation, he didn't even deny it and simply admitted the result of his momentary playfulness. Ray Minkai was helpless and secretly sighed. Mr. EZ. You know, at the beginning, Tring invited me to participate in the World Tournament with him. If it wasn't for your momentary playfulness, I'm afraid I would have already teamed up with Cheng and entered the finals. Is that so? Ez was stunned and seemed to have not reacted. He didn't know that there was such a small episode between Rei Minkai and Makoto Ito. However, when he came back to his senses, he still laughed heartily. Ah, it's okay. The current situation isn't bad either. Whether it's you or Ching, you both entered the finals. As he spoke, Ez stroked his chin and sighed proudly. I didn't expect that my momentary playfulness could cause such a result. It feels good. So, Mr. Ez wants me to hold back? Or do you want me to do my best to defeat Ching? Suddenly, Rei Minkai's words made Ez's expression freeze. No. I want you to do your best to defeat Makoto Ito. Rei Minkai. After a long time, Ez's words slowly sounded. Mr. Ez, you don't have to say much about this. Whether it's for the mission or for the final victory, I will do my best to defeat Ching and Lingshi. However, just as Rei Minkai finished speaking, Ez's following words stunned Rei Minkai. No, that's not enough. Rei Minkai. Not enough. Rei Minkai furrowed his brows. Yes, Kai. Ez's face became serious. His voice was slow and low. Kai. You should already know what kind of situation we're facing. In this situation, Ching can't avoid all of this from happening, and he can't escape from it. For this, the best way is to let him participate. Participate? Rei Minkai was shocked and blurted out. Colonel, are you going to send Ching to the battlefield? Yes. But not now. Ching is not mature enough. But this doesn't stop you from defeating him, and defeating him ruthlessly. Ez's eyes flashed with struggle, but he still said firmly, So, I hope that before Ching steps into the battlefield, he can see with his own eyes what an active pilot looks like on the battlefield. Colonel, are you serious? If that's the case, then the steel pull-a battle is no longer a steel pull-a battle. You and I both know this. Rei Minkai took a step back, and his expression became serious. If it was really as Ez said, then Rei Minkai, who was going all out, would definitely use any means to win, just like when he was piloting Lancelot. Yes, that's it. Although I know that the steel pull-a battle shouldn't be like this, but in order to let Ching see with his own eyes the attitude of a warrior returning from the battlefield, I can only choose this. Is this father's choice, Colonel? Rei Minkai was silent. Yes. Maybe this is wishful thinking on my part. But when the disaster called the Abyss comes, I hope that Ching can climb the Gouda to protect his family, and not run away with the steel pull-a model. Chapter 175. He didn't expect Ez's purpose to be so strict and even cruel. Although it was his son, Rei Minkai couldn't bear to make such a harsh decision for a 13-year-old child. Not to mention, the executor was himself. Are you hesitating? It wasn't difficult for Ez to guess Rei Minkai's thoughts. He knew that the world he was born in was a peaceful world. Especially after the pioneers led the SPF authority to enter this world, wars between countries were even more impossible to see. A bit. Isn't it a bit early? Ching is only 13 years old now. He's at least 3 years old before he can reluctantly accept war. This is my personal opinion. Rei Minkai was silent for a moment before he spoke his thoughts. Is it too early? Ez sighed silently and looked back at the calm sea in the distance. In fact, I also think it's a bit early. But after I personally experienced the battle on a civilization that was eroded by the Abyss, I gradually lost the concept of age. Ez lifted his foot and lifted a small stone into the air, then he caught it with his right hand and threw it into the sea while recalling the scenes he had experienced. Isidore. This is the civilization I encountered 4 years ago in the Z056 spacetime. Kai, do you know what was in front of me when I followed the Third Fleet into this spacetime and came into contact with this civilization? Rei Minkai shook his head silently. It was a battle. It was a group of 7 to 8 years old human children. They were struggling to hold individual weapons that were as tall as them, or even taller than them. They were crying, trembling, and fighting the abyss beasts that rushed in front of them until the last moment. Yi unwilling roar rang in his ears, and he saw Yi's tightly clenched fists that were still exerting force. Ray Minkai didn't know what to say for a while. Regarding the abyss, whether it was the original world of Soth's mechanical beasts or the world of Lucio, Ray Minkai was only familiar with the giant monster, Asmodai. Other than that, Ray Minkai couldn't remember any information about the abyss. Although the process of contact was a bit difficult, in the end, we saved Isidore's last hope. At this point, a smile gradually appeared on Ez's face, but in the next moment, the smile quickly disappeared. Ray Minkai, if you've seen that hell, do you still think my decision is a bit too early? No. Maybe it's just right. In the end, Ray Minkai voiced out the new idea that had surfaced in his mind. Is that so? Ez nodded with relief and raised to pat to mention on Ray Minkai's shoulder. I'll leave it to you. Yes, Captain. Isidore SSSSSSSSSSSS. Isidore Civilization, Abyss Beast. This was the latest information Ray Minkai once again learned about the Abyss from the people here. Facing the breeze, Ray Minkai, who had been silent for a long time, sighed softly. For the continuation of the civilization? Yes. Suddenly, a somewhat unfamiliar but very familiar voice answered Ray Minkai's SSS. State 0? Upon hearing this voice, Ray Minkai immediately realized the other party's identity and turned around to look behind him. Rustle, rustle. The bushes by the side of the road shook, and a light and agile white figure jumped out and gently landed on the railing beside Ray Minkai. Long time no see, Kai. The pair of golden eyes looked up and sized up Ray Minkai. It seems that the peace of this world has made you sentimental, Kai. The white fur swayed gently in the breeze, the cute appearance matched with the cold voice. This contrast made Ray Minkai smile. Is it? Maybe it is. Long time no see. State 0. You're finally awake? The white cat raised its little paw and waved. No, this is just a temporary awakening. The female doctor is right. I'm really full now, so I have to enter the dormant period to digest for a while. Did you really eat too much? State 0, aren't you a metal life form? How can you be full? Metal life form? Do you still think I'm one of those ordinary soft mechanical beasts? Kai. It seems that you haven't recovered much of your memory. Yes. I've gradually recalled other things, but I have no clue about the original world. What happened after that? Ray Minkai shrugged his shoulders, indicating that it was not his fault. I've forgotten too. State 0's answer was very straightforward, so straightforward that it caught Ray Minkai off guard. Forgotten? Then why did you say that my memory hasn't recovered? So what? The truth is the truth, Kai. After this is over, go back to the princess world as soon as possible. State 0 jumped lightly on the railing and landed in front of Ray Minkai. It raised its golden pupils and stared into Ray Minkai's eyes. Why? Because we left some things there. After that, the white cat State 0 squatted in front of Ray Minkai and said slowly, Kai. Before returning to the princess world, I'm afraid I have to sleep for a while. I'll leave this body in your care. Wait a minute. Ray Minkai's shout did not stop the white cat State 0 from sleeping. Instead, the moment Ray Minkai's voice sounded, the white cat State 0's golden pupils suddenly darkened and turned back into a pair of azure, ocean-like blue pupils. Meow, in the blink of an eye, State 0, who was chatting with Ray Minkai just now, had fallen asleep and was replaced by a genuine kitten. Ray Minkai reached out and pinched the back of the white cat's neck. He put the meowing white cat into his arms and smiled helplessly. It seems that I can't escape the position of poop picker in a short period of time. At this time, Euphemia and the rest's calls came from not far away. State 0, where are you? Hearing the calls, Ray Minkai raised his hand and flicked the white cat State 0's little head. I didn't expect a cold monster like you to also run away. Meow? White cat State 0, who only relied on its instincts to move, looked up at Ray Minkai in confusion, as if it did not understand why its little head was flicked. After holding the white cat State 0 and turning around to meet up with Euphemia and the rest, Takasaka, who saw that the white cat State 0 had been found, pulled along Ella, who was completely confused by the situation, and found an excuse to slip away. Let's go. UFFI, where do you want to go? Ray Minkai, who handed the white cat State 0 back to Euphemia's care, looked around and found that the number of people at the celebration was gradually increasing. Let's just walk around. Guy, don't we need to prepare the body for the finals? Euphemia looked around and did not find any place she wanted to go. Not counting today, we have at least 5 days to rest and reorganize. No hurry. Ray Minkai smiled and turned his attention to the coffee shop not far away. From the signboard hanging at the entrance of the coffee shop, it seemed that there was a very good event today. Perhaps they could go and watch. Come. UFFI, let's go to that coffee shop. After making a decision, Ray Minkai held Euphemia's little hand, walked through the crowd, and came to the door of the coffee shop with a painted poster of Axis and Hangzaku hanging at the entrance. Shea Aznable's Days in Axis? Euphemia read the words on the poster and looked at Ray Minkai in confusion. Ray Minkai also shook his head in confusion. The only clue he could guess was the fragments that appeared in the portrait of the young comet. If it was really as Ray Minkai had guessed, then the event held in this coffee shop might be related to Shea Aznable's experience during the Axis period. Are you interested? UFFI. Well, let's go in and sit. Anyway, we have nothing to do. Euphemia nodded obediently. So, the two walked into the coffee shop together. As soon as they entered, Ray Minkai and Euphemia were surprised to find that compared to the increasing number of people outside, the environment of this coffee shop was much quieter. Even the customers were not many. Every customer sitting in a seat was either looking at the newspaper on the table or taking photos back and forth of the steel pulla model in the display cabinet next to the seat. It seemed very quiet and orderly. 2 guests, the seats you booked have been arranged. Please follow me. At this time, a girl wearing a long-sleeved long skirt-made uniform slowly walked in front of Ray Minkai and Euphemia, and said respectfully, "The seats we booked?" Ray Minkai was stunned and didn't react. Coming to this coffee shop was Ray Minkai's impromptu idea. How could it be possible to book a seat in advance? However, the maid in front of them still respectfully bowed to Ray Minkai and Euphemia and said, "Yes, 2 guests. The seats you booked have been prepared. Please follow me." Minkai. Let's follow them. Euphemia, who was looking around, pulled Ray Minkai's hand and said softly, "Okay." Ray Minkai nodded. "Thank you for your trouble. This is what we should do. Please follow me." The maid glanced at Euphemia discreetly before turning to lead the way. If it weren't for Euphemia, he would have changed the way he addressed Ray Minkai to "Master, you're back," which was a classic line of dialogue. Of course, Euphemia wouldn't know there was such an arrangement, and even if Ray Minkai knew, he wouldn't say it out loud. And as for why there was an order for the 2 of them in this coffee shop, under the maid's lead, when they saw the 2 people, their doubts were solved. It was a corner of the coffee shop. It was quiet and well lit. As long as you sat there quietly, you could see every corner of the coffee shop, and you could clearly see the pedestrians with different faces coming and going outside. In the sunlight scattered through the window, Ray Minkai saw a man and a woman sitting opposite each other. The woman had beautiful short golden hair, a pair of eyes that were crystalline and translucent like emeralds, and a dignified and beautiful appearance. The man had neat short black hair, a determined face, and brown pupils from time to time flashed with a peaceful and quiet light. From their appearance, the man and woman should be no more than 25 years old. You're here. Please sit. As soon as the man and woman saw Lei Mingkai and Euphemia walking over under the lead of the maid, they took the initiative to give up their seats and let Lei Mingkai and Euphemia sit face to face with them. 2 cups of black tea. After Lei Mingkai ordered their tea, he looked back at the man and woman. Are these the seats you booked? I'm very sorry. I hope our decision didn't bother you. Facing Lei Mingkai's question, the blonde woman first sincerely apologized, and then introduced herself. I'm Audrey Ben. He's my fiancé, Banaji Link. For some reason, we heard about you not long ago, so we wanted to take this opportunity to get to know you. Audrey Ben? Banaji Links? When the blonde woman spoke, Lei Mingkai's mind was shaken. He even couldn't help but turn his eyes, trying to look at the calendar placed next to him to see what day it was. How come every famous person from the Gauda era appeared one after another? Now, the last descendant of the Zabi family and the heir of the Bister Financial Group appeared. But Lei Mingkai thought about it and realized that things weren't that simple. Audrey Ben, also known as Minerva Zabi, shouldn't be targeting him. Perhaps it could be Euphemia sitting next to him. Hello. I'm Lei Mingkai. She's Euphemia Libritania. With a myriad of thoughts, Lei Mingkai still maintained a calm appearance and introduced himself. The blonde woman nodded slightly. After exchanging a glance with her fiancé, she went straight to the point and spoke of her intentions. Euphemia Libritania, can you talk to me alone? Euphemia's face froze. As a princess, she immediately sensed that something was wrong. But Euphemia knew that the other party didn't mean any harm. Mingkai, can I? Euphemia looked at Lei Mingkai and asked personally. Lei Mingkai didn't answer immediately, but looked at the man sitting next to the blonde woman. The other party was also looking at Lei Mingkai. The moment their eyes met, Lei Mingkai nodded. All right. I also have some matters I wish to discuss with Lord Banaji Ling. UFFI, can I trouble you with Stage 0? Okay. After the 2 women watched Lei Mingkai and Banaji go up to the rooftop of the coffee shop, the blonde woman put on a serious face and said loudly, Please allow me to introduce myself again. I'm the current Duke of Guion Principality, Minerva Zabi. May I ask if the woman sitting opposite me is Her Highness Euphemia Libritania, the 3rd Princess of the Holy Britannia Empire? Hearing this, Euphemia gently put the white cat Stage 0 on the sofa, got up, twirled her skirt with both hands, and gave a dignified salute to the blonde woman, and respectfully replied, Yes, I'm Euphemia Libritania, the 3rd Princess of the Holy Britannia Empire. Greetings to the Duke. Please sit. After making a new greeting, Minerva nodded, let Euphemia sit down, and looked straight into Euphemia's eyes. Her Highness Euphemia, the following question is not an inquiry as the current Duke of Guion Principality, but as a special inspector of the SPF authority, under orders to ask you an inquiry. May I ask if you have any objections? Euphemia shook her head. No. First, it has been a while since Her Highness Euphemia came to this world. I wonder if Her Highness Euphemia's thoughts are still the same as before? Although there have been changes, I still want to return to my hometown. Euphemia did not hesitate and answered in one breath. Second, does Her Highness Euphemia have any doubts about the current situation of her hometown, or even dissatisfaction? There are doubts, but far from dissatisfaction. The same straightforward answer. Third, does Her Highness Euphemia have any intention of becoming an inspector of the SPF authority together with His Excellency Lei Mingkai? This question made Euphemia hesitate for a moment, but soon Euphemia's eyes changed and became firm. Yes, I want to be an inspector together with Mingkai. At this point, Minerva Zaber smiled gently and took the initiative to extend her right hand. Then, my mission is complete. I hope that in the future, you and I will have the opportunity to work together. Yes, and I hope so with all my heart, Duke. Chapter 176. When the bright sunlight shone down from the heavens onto the mortal world, it was torn to shreds by the grapevines that covered the rooftop. Only the snowflake-like specks of light remained, appearing somewhat dreamy. "Sorry. I need you to accompany me on a trip." That man revealed an apologetic smile. "No. Actually, we all know that temporarily leaving is beneficial for the ladies to converse, right?" Ray Minkai shook his head, speaking his thoughts without minding. "Yes. You're right. After all, no matter if it's you or me, the woman we love isn't an ordinary person." The man nodded, saying these words naturally. "I never thought that the person who booked the seats for us was the heir of Gion Principality and the young master of Bister Financial Group." Ray Minkai smiled faintly, directly exposing the identity of the man in front of him, as well as the woman who was talking to Euphemia alone. "As expected. You're really as shrewd as Ray said." "Ray Minkai." The man shook his head slightly, his expression serious. "Please forgive us for hiding our identity. This is to avoid unnecessary trouble." "I naturally understand this. It's fine if it's just the name Audrey Ben, but why do you still use Banaji links? There are many people in this world who understand the meaning of this name." Facing Ray Minkai's teasing, the man smiled helplessly. "I originally had the idea of using another fake name, but because of her whim, I had no choice but to continue using this name." Saying this, the man slowly took a breath, and once again introduced himself seriously. "Although you should already know my real name, but now please let me introduce myself again. I'm Banaji Bister. As you know, I'm currently the current head of Bister Financial Group." "Current head?" Ray Minkai muttered, immediately thinking of the woman with Banaji, that is, Minerva Zabi. "I wonder if your princess has already." "Yes. The current Minerva Zabi, with the support of Marshal Ribert and Sir Pioneer, has become the current Duke of Gion Principality." Banaji's confession made Ray Minkai sigh inwardly. Sure enough, he had discovered too many unexpected changes in the UC world he was familiar with. However, in general, he was happy to see these changes. After all, many people who had once made him feel sorry for them had survived in this world and obtained a better fate than their original fate. "So, you didn't come here this time just to treat us to a cup of black tea?" Since he had already spoken, Ray Minkai was no longer polite. That was true. "Then, please take a look at this." Banaji smiled, and reached out to take out a badge from his bosom and handed it to Ray Minkai. Ray Minkai took it and looked at it carefully. He saw that in the dark background there was a silhouette of the City of Stars. No, it should be said that it was the silhouette of the City of Stars. And around the silhouette there was a ring with at least 50 stars circling around it. In the gap between the ring and the silhouette, there were 2 crossed swords passing through the back of the silhouette. Finally, at the place where the ring and the tip of the swords pointed, there were 2 olive leaves that split from the center. "This is the badge of the administration?" Ray Minkai returned the badge to Banaji and asked. "Yes and no. This is the badge that the administration gives to every inspector." Banaji took the badge, but he didn't take it back. Instead, he continued to show it to Lei Minkai and introduced the secrets of the badge to Lei Minkai. Although most of the patrolmen's badges are about the same, there are still ranks within the patrolmen's organization. "Ranks?" Ray Minkai's eyes moved and noticed the ring around the silhouette of the City of Stars. This ring seemed to be golden, a golden color that flickered under the sun. "Looks like you've already noticed." Banaji nodded and continued. "Now, in the administration's files, I'm identified as a special inspector. Therefore, the badge I use has a golden ring as a conspicuous symbol." "She too?" "Yes. We're all special inspectors." Banaji took back his badge and took out 2 palm-sized boxes from his pocket. "Ray Minkai, these are your badges. As long as you go to the SPF Authority headquarters in the City of Stars after the finals and activate these 2 badges, then you'll become one of us." Looking at this sudden accident, Lei Mingkai couldn't help but be taken aback. Didn't you say that when the words came to his mouth, Lei Mingkai understood the meaning of this box. It was supposed to be a reward after the victory, but it was delivered to him before the finals. I'm afraid, this is a very clear signal. Victory is allowed, defeat is not allowed. Lei Mingkai sighed inwardly and shifted his gaze away from the box to look at Banaji. Looks like I have to accept this badge now? Banaji smiled faintly. No. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you accept it or not. We just feel that it's the best time to give it to you. The best time? Lei Mingkai pondered for a moment. He had a rough idea in his heart. The administration probably already saw through Lei Mingkai's, no, Euphemia's thoughts. In that case, I'll accept it first. The moment Lei Mingkai made his decision, he said again, regardless of whether I win in the finals or not, this badge will not be taken back, right? Of course. The badge given by the administration, other than death, there's no other way to destroy it. Banaji's smile was still on his face, but for some reason, Lei Mingkai's heart skipped a beat. Then, what about defection? Other than dying in battle, there is no other way to destroy the emblem, Banaji said again. Death? Lei Mingkai shrugged and sighed. It seems that we're still on a pirate ship. Yes. This is the most deceptive pirate ship in the entire universe and the entire dimensional world. How about it? Do you want to get off the ship? Banaji's eyes flashed with a smile, and he asked as he stretched out his right hand. Lei Mingkai closed his eyes and shook his head slowly. He stretched out his right hand and shook Banaji's right hand. How is that possible? This may be a pirate ship, but so what? Lei Mingkai's voice was firm. Then, I'll look forward to your performance in the finals. I hope that you won't let down this badge. Understood. Half an hour later, Lei Mingkai and Euphemia stood at the entrance of the coffee shop and said goodbye to Banaji and Minerva, then walked back to the dormitory. UFFI. What were you guys talking about? After leaving the crowd and arriving at a secluded riverside, Lei Mingkai opened his mouth. What did you guys talk about? Euphemia slowly stroked State Zero's little head, thought for a while and replied, Actually, we didn't talk about much. Apart from the business at the beginning, we mostly talked about our own experiences. Your own experiences? Lei Mingkai raised his eyebrows and vaguely guessed it. Yes. I didn't expect that woman to be the current Duke of Gyuing Principality, Minerva Zabi. According to the UC history I know, Minerva Zabi should be in a semi-retired state, or even retired state. Euphemia stopped and leaned against the railing. She couldn't help but think about the information she crammed in this period of time. This is the wonder of this world. UFFI, otherwise, why would you and I appear here? Lei Mingkai pondered for a while, and reached into his pocket to take out one of the two boxes that Banaji gave him. UFFI. This should be yours. Take it. What is this? Euphemia took the box from Lei Mingkai's hands, but didn't have the intention to open it. Because Euphemia's left hand was still holding the sleepy white cat, State Zero. It's the inspector's badge. That man, Banaji, asked us to bring this badge to the SPF Authority headquarters in Xingyao City after the finals and activate it. Inspector? Euphemia was surprised for a while, but then Euphemia couldn't help but be silent for a while. Kai. Just now, Duke Minerva Zabi asked me 3 questions. 3 questions. Yes, 3 questions. Euphemia held the box in her hand tightly in her palm, and her voice was very clear as she recounted the 3 questions that she and Minerva Zabi had just answered. First, have my thoughts changed? Second, do I feel dissatisfied with my hometown? Third, do I have the desire to become an inspector? Lei Mingkai didn't immediately ask, but turned around and leaned against the railing like Euphemia, and then opened his mouth. UFFI, what's your answer? Kai, my answer is yes. Euphemia's voice gradually fell, and then what appeared in front of Lei Mingkai was Euphemia's determined face. Then, this badge has come at the right time. Rei Minkai's gaze fell on the box in Euphemia's hand and nodded. Let's do things here first, then go back and persuade sister. Is that so? What if Her Highness Cornelia doesn't agree? Then it's up to you to subdue sister. Rei Minkai was shocked when he heard this, and waved his hand repeatedly. UFFI, what are you talking about? Me subduing Her Highness Cornelia? What's this? Can't be denied. Kai, you are my knight. My orders are absolute. Euphemia put on a stern face and pretended to be majestic. However, this appearance didn't last long, and Euphemia couldn't hold on any longer, and she collapsed. Don't laugh, Kai. Euphemia, whose face was slightly red, glared at Rei Minkai, who couldn't help laughing, and said fiercely, Yes, my lovely highness. Rei Minkai's face was stern, and he kept silent. The next moment, Euphemia turned her back to Rei Minkai. Kai, I'm serious. If Sister Royal doesn't agree, I don't want to be enemies with her. So, before that, I hope you can control Sister Royal so that she won't be enemies with us. Rei Minkai's expression froze, and he subconsciously asked, Is it just Her Highness Cornelia alone? Euphemia's whole body trembled. Now that Rei Minkai couldn't see, Euphemia bit her lips tightly, and her face struggled for a while, but in the end, she nodded silently. Yes, there was only Royal Sister. Only she can't be enemies with us. Otherwise, I don't know what I should do. Suddenly, a pair of strong and powerful arms pulled Euphemia into a warm embrace from behind. Leave everything to me, my lovely highness. Since I can't let Her Highness Cornelia become our enemy, then, from the beginning, I will tie her to your side, so that she can't use all the power she has. How about it? Yes. Pa. 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 With the sound of paintballs exploding in the sky, the moment when the colorful clouds spread out, the Shizuoka Steel Pulla World Competition venue, which had been jubilant for a week, finally ushered in the peak moment. Everyone. Hello everyone. I'm Steel Pulla idol Kiera. After a week, we meet again. Today is the most glorious and most important moment of this year's Copra World Competition. Standing in the center of the venue. Standing on the Steel Pulla platform that was watched by Steel Pulla fans all over the world today, Kiera energetically gave the opening remarks of the finals. After a series of extremely difficult battles, the remaining two powerful Steel Pulla fighters will launch their final charge to the championship today. I believe everyone is already familiar with them. So, before the finals begin, please follow me and shout out their names. Let's give them our blessings on their way to the championship. Kiera waved her left hand and signaled everyone to look at the first passage. The first to appear are the contestants from our country. Their names are Makoto Ito, Lingshi. All of a sudden, the audience roared. The names of Makoto Ito and Lingshi were constantly shouted from the audience's mouths, like rolling thunder constantly rolling over the venue. This scene made Makoto Ito, who was standing in the first passage, startled. Lingshi, I suddenly feel a little scared. For some reason, listening to the thunderous cries, Makoto Ito suddenly found that his legs were a little soft. Hey! Ching, you've already come here. Don't tell me you're scared to the point of running home? Compared to the frightened Makoto Ito, Lingshi was calm and collected. How could it be? Makoto Ito suddenly gathered all the courage in his body and drove himself step by step towards the center of the venue, towards the Steel Pulla battle platform. The strange thing was, after leaving the first passage and walking amidst the thunderous cries of the audience, Makoto Ito's heart slowly calmed down, and his originally somewhat frivolous footsteps became firm and powerful. Hey! I told you! Ching, this is the last battle. Let's go. And let's go. The moment the two stepped onto the Steel Pulla battle platform, Kiera turned around and faced the audience on the other side, waving her hand and saying, Then, next up is the most mysterious and powerful contestant in this finals. Ladies and gentlemen, please shout out his name with me. Kai. 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 Thunder roared. Compared to Makoto Ito and Lingshire's cries, it was even more sensational. The lights that shone down from the dome converged at the entrance of the tunnel, waiting for the man to appear. Ta! Ta! Footsteps sounded. The moment the figure appeared under the light, the Kawaguchi celebrities, Fellini, and the others sitting in the audience couldn't help but stand up. That is? Under the light, Rei Minkai, dressed in black and with a cold expression, slowly stepped onto the steel pulla battle platform. With a raise of his hand, a black steel pulla model with scarlet flowing light flowing through the gaps was placed on the GP base. Let the battle begin. Rei Minkai's voice was bone-chilling, as if he didn't recognize Makoto Ito and Lingshire standing opposite him. Kai. What happened? Makoto Ito was also dumbfounded. He couldn't understand why Rei Minkai suddenly became so cold and unapproachable. As the instigator, Iji sat beside his wife, Iji Lin, and nodded silently. It seemed that Rei Minkai had already fulfilled his request. Chapter 177. The main body was black, and there were traces of scarlet light flowing through the armor. The exterior of the armor was a strange-looking mech. Ever since Rei Minkai had placed this mecha on the GP base, it had attracted the attention of Kawaguchi Yume, Fellini, Yazaka Jinsei, and the others who were watching the finals. That mech, what is it? Fellini placed his hands on the railing and stared at the close-ups on the screen without blinking. That's not Pirate Gouda, and it doesn't look like the Tiger Leopard Cavalry. Kawaguchi Minami's eyebrows were tightly knitted behind his large sunglasses. No. Kawaguchi Minami. I could still see the shadow of the Pirate Gundam from above. Look at its arms. Although it's been painted, I'm sure it's still Pirate Gouda's shield generator. Yazaka Jinsei rubbed his chin as he observed the screen. Is that so? Fellini's eyes lit up as he looked at the screen according to Yazaka Jinsei's instructions. Sure enough, it was just as Mauri Yazaka had said. The arms of the strange black mech were equipped with the shield generator used by the Pirate Gundam. Is that a modified Pirate Gouda? No. That's not Pirate Gouda. It's just using Pirate Gouda's shield generator. Kawaguchi Minami shook his head as he denied Yazaka Jinsei and Fellini's speculations. He then looked at the latest close-up. He saw a long-range weapon that had not appeared in most steel pulla battles. A bow and arrow was firmly attached to the back of the mech. Other than that, Kawaguchi Minami could not find any other long-range weapons on the mech bow and arrow? How is that possible? They even abandoned the Vulcan cannon? Yazaka Jinsei also noticed this and exclaimed. What? They only have a bow and arrow? What is Kai trying to do? Fellini clenched his right fist as he slammed it on the railing. Is he going to forfeit just like that? As soon as he said this, Fellini immediately rejected this idea. No. There's no way that Kai would give up on this match so easily. Yes. Kai will not give up this match so easily. Kawaguchi Minami nodded as he stared at Rei Minkai standing behind the mech from afar. Maybe he has his own plans. Under their watchful eyes, the finals began. This time, the battle venue was still the first venue, the universe. However, the universe this time was still the Reef universe that appeared in UC-0083. Unlike before, whether it was the Gundam controlled by Iji Cheng and Ling Department, or Rei Minkai's strange black mecha, they were all arranged to stay in the empty space above the Reef universe. Cheng. Can you see what kind of mech that guy is using? Lingshire, who has never taken the initiative to ask what type of mech the opponent is using, asked Makoto Ito for the first time after the match began. I don't know. It looks a bit like a pirate, but the armor it is equipped with doesn't have the outline of the Pirate Gouda. At this moment, Makoto Ito also fell into the same dilemma as Kawaguchi Minami. Black. If you want to know the name of this mech, then you can call it Black. Suddenly, Ray Minkai's cold, almost emotionless voice sounded. Black? Lingshur was taken aback, but he was immediately angered by Ray Minkai's cold voice that was different from usual. You bastard, what are you pretending for? You just made it to the finals. You're turning your back on us already? As they were talking, Lingshur took the initiative to attack. He controlled the interstellar assault Gauda to raise his hand and fired a shot at Ray Minkai's Black. Virum. The itchy particle beam blasted out of the muzzle and went straight to Black that was suspended in its original position. However, Lei Minkai did not care about the incoming particle beam attack at all. Instead, he controlled Black to reach out with its left hand and reached behind its back. A longbow appeared in his hand. Then, he reached back with his right hand and took out a cylindrical arrow from the quiver at his waist. He pulled the bow. He aimed. At the moment when the particle beam was about to reach its front, Black released its right hand and the arrow suddenly whizzed out, brazenly rushing towards the incoming particle beam. Boom! In just the blink of an eye, the flying arrow that collided with the particle beam exploded violently, setting off waves of billowing smoke and dust. It hit. Lingshur's eyes widened and subconsciously searched around the smoke and dust. No. Lingshur, dodge it. Makoto Ito's shout made Lingshur instinctively control the interstellar assault Gauda to dodge to the right. Immediately after, the moment when the interstellar assault Gauda dodged, a dense, flashing steel storm suddenly tore through the smoke that enveloped Black and attacked the interstellar assault Gauda from all directions. Fortunately, due to Makoto Ito's timely reminder and Lingshur's quick reaction, the interstellar assault Gauda did not suffer any damage from the sudden wave of attack. Even so, Makoto Ito and Lingshur were not happy. That was because when the interstellar assault Gauda dodged the sudden attack, a piece of wreckage that happened to float behind the interstellar assault Gauda became the scapegoat. Pata, pata, pata. Before the sound of a rapid collision disappeared, an even louder and more violent explosion instantly became the main melody of the moment. In just a blink of an eye, the piece of wreckage that was almost the same size as the interstellar assault Gauda was easily drowned in the violent explosion and turned into nothingness. That? What kind of attack is that? Lingshur stared blankly at the storm that engulfed the wreckage in an instant. Lingshur. It's coming again. Retreat first. Makoto Ito, who had been paying attention to Black's movements, warned. Whoosh! When the interstellar assault Gauda moved rapidly again, a black shadow broke through the thick smoke and went straight to the location of the interstellar assault Gauda. Strangely, no matter how the interstellar assault Gauda dodged, the black shadow seemed to have grown eyes as it stared at the interstellar assault Gauda without letting go. What's going on? Could it be a floating cannon? Lingshur subconsciously recalled the memory of the battle with Ella. No. It's not a floating cannon. Makoto Ito denied this speculation. TSK. No matter what it is, it's fine as long as it explodes. Lingshur gritted his teeth and decisively chose the most violent and effective method. The interstellar assault Gauda made a turn and accelerated behind a piece of rock. After that, he accelerated again and rushed out from another direction. Before the black shadow could react, he raised his hand and shot. Boom! The light beam flashed and the black shadow was hit. However, Makoto Ito's yell followed closely. Lingshur. Dodge. Bang! It was the steel storm again. It was actually the same scene as before. The steel storm that came out of nowhere tore through the thick smoke of the explosion without any warning. It covered the sky and covered the earth as it rushed toward the Galactic Assault Gundam. TSK. What the hell is going on? Of course. Although this attack was still strange, Lingshur still controlled the interstellar assault Gauda and forced the attack away. I don't know either. But, it's definitely related to that black shadow. Speaking up to hear, Makoto Ito's eyes flashed and he immediately realized the key point. Black. He quickly turned his gaze and looked at where Black was. He saw Black drawing his bow and nocking an arrow. Once again, he locked onto Black, who had created an intergalactic assault machine from afar. Whoosh! The black shadow appeared again. Lingshire, dodge. Makoto Ito reminded Lingshire to dodge again. As expected, when the interstellar assault Gouda moved, the black shadow, which was the flying arrow shot by Black, would stare at the interstellar assault Gouda as if it had grown eyes. Floating missile. Floating missile. It's a floating missile. Lingshire, I should have guessed the black shadow's true identity. In a flash, Makoto Ito felt that he had already caught the black shadow's true identity. Is that so? Then, does that mean that we can kill it? Lingshire laughed and stared at the black shadow that refused to let go of the interstellar assault. Gouda, yes. However, Lingshire, after destroying the black shadow, immediately moved at high speed and closed in on Black with his fastest speed. As long as the interstellar assault Gouda can pull Black into close combat, then it won't be able to use the floating missile anymore. Makoto Ito quickly arranged the next course of action. Got it. After deciding on the course of action, Lingshire immediately began to move. The interstellar assault Gouda raised his hand and shot out another accurate beam attack. Boom! During the explosion of the black shadow, the interstellar assault Gouda's figure flashed and disappeared into the small-scale debris floating around the submerged reef sector, allowing the steel storm that erupted behind him to destroy the debris wantonly. Is he hiding? The disappearance of the interstellar assault Gouda did not surprise Rei Minkai. On the contrary, the actions of Makoto Ito and Lingshire were proceeding as he had expected. Are you trying to pull me into a combat battle? Ching Lingshire. Now is not the time. Rei Minkai snorted and continued to move his hands. Under the control of Rei Minkai, Black reached out his right hand and took out 3 flying arrows from his waist and accelerated into the submerged reef sector. Since Makoto Ito and Lingshire wanted to drag Black into a combat battle, then Rei Minkai wanted to see if they had the ability to do so. Whoosh! 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 He drew his bow and shot continuously. The 3 flying arrows in Black's hand were shot into the shadow of the floating debris belt one after another. Then, Black raised his hand and drew his bow again, knocked an arrow and shot at the gap on the right side that was filled with debris and debris. Whoosh! Boom! Before the flying arrow had even flown half the distance, a dazzling beam of light burst out from the shadows and accurately hit the flying arrow. The moment the flying arrow exploded, the cluster bombs that were hidden inside it suddenly burst out and rushed out from the inside of the flying arrow, rushing towards the submerged reef sector that was filled with debris and debris behind the smoke. In the blink of an eye, there was another series of roars and flickering flames. However, amidst the flickering flames, there was a barely visible square-shaped shadow that was rapidly growing in size until it rushed out from the depths of the sea of fire and pounced on Black in an extremely barbaric manner. And this square shadow turned out to be a piece of armor that had fallen off from the battleship. Seeing this happening, Rei Minkai calmly ordered Black to retreat quickly and drew his bow again. How can I let you have your way again? In the blink of an eye, a red dot appeared on the armor. The red dot grew larger and larger at an extremely fast speed until it melted through the armor. The red dot then converged into a beam blade in front of Black and headed straight for Black's head. Rei Minkai narrowed his eyes, and the bow in Black's hand that had been drawn to a full moon instantly burst out and shot out. It was not to hit the target. It was just to slow down the speed of the armor that was rushing towards him for a moment. Boom! The moment the flying arrow collided with the armored wreckage, the violent explosion caused the speed of the armored wreckage to decrease by 30%. The beam blade that extended from the back of the armored wreckage had no choice but to rapidly retreat from Black, until Black was completely out of the attack range of the beam blade. Damn it! Just as the Ling Division's disgruntled voice was heard, the Galactic Assault Gundam silhouette also shot out from behind the remains of the Gundam's armor. It raised its hand and locked onto Black, firing 3 consecutive shots. Strangely, Black did not dodge the beam attack of Interstellar Assault Gouda. Instead, it stood there like a fool, waiting for the beam attack to arrive. One! The 3 particle beam attacks arrived in the blink of an eye, but nothing happened that could make Lingshur and Makoto Ito happy. On the contrary, their hearts sank. The moment the particle beam attacks touched Black's body, they disappeared without a trace. It was just like the buffer shield in Gao Da's hand. From the looks of it, how can it be? Cheng, does that guy's body have the same function as a buffer shield? Ling Xi's mouth was wide open as he subconsciously asked. I don't know. But I can't rule out this possibility. Makoto Ito shook his head. Although he did not want to admit it, the reality was as such. Makoto Ito and Lingshur were shocked, but Rei Minkai did not feel proud of Black's excellent performance. After all, this was the situation that should have happened in the plan. Cheng Lingshur. In a battle, you can't stay in the same place because of some accidents, or else you will be the ones to die. Snap. Under Rei Minkai's control, Black snapped his fingers. Then, in the shadow of the gravel belt around Interstellar Assault Gouda, 3 flashes of light burst out at the same time. A powerful explosion engulfed Interstellar Assault Gouda. Chapter 178. Is it over? Mauri Yazaka stood up abruptly and stared at the big screen that was filled with flashes of light from the explosion. No, not yet. Kawaguchi Nomi shook his head and stood up from his seat as well. He stared at the big screen that was filled with flashes of light from the explosion. They're here. Seiwa Lingshur and the others are still here. Following Fellini's excited yell, a beam of light broke through the light from the explosion and arrived in front of Black in the blink of an eye. However, Black merely tilted its body to the side, allowing the beam of light that suddenly tore through the light to arrive right in front of it to end up in a futile state. Boom! A small pebble behind Black was shattered by the beam of light. Hey! It's rare for you to cause such a commotion, but it doesn't seem like much. As soon as Lingshur's voice rang out, Interstellar Assault Gouda, who was drowned in the explosion, rushed out from the light and appeared in front of everyone once again. But, so miserable! Interstellar Assault Gouda is injured. Kanna Takasaka, who was sitting next to Iori Rinko, started tearing up when she saw the state of the Gundam that emerged from the explosion. Yes. Too miserable. Under Rei Minkai's deliberate arrangement, Interstellar Assault Gouda, who was drowned in the trap laid by the 3 flying arrows, had one side of his V-shaped antenna blown off. Most of the left side of his face, including his left eye, was blown through. Even the most important buffer shield had a huge glaring crack in it due to the explosion. Anyone with a discerning eye would know that the buffer shield was on the verge of collapse. As long as there was a slight external force exerted on it, the buffer shield would definitely be destroyed. Therefore, compared to the buffer shield, the other injuries on Interstellar Assault Gouda's body were nothing. Kai's goal is the buffer shield. Seeing Interstellar Assault Gouda's miserable state, Fellini exclaimed. I'm afraid that's it. Perhaps the explosion just now was just a cover. Guy's goal is most likely to be the buffer shield. Yazaka sensed that there were not many arrows left on Black's waist. In other words, Guy's trump card is about to be revealed? Kawaguchi Nomi pondered for a moment. While raising this question, he focused all his attention on the finals. As controllers, both Lingshur and Makoto Ito knew that the buffer shield could no longer support them. However, this didn't mean that they would give up on the finals because of the buffer shield's collapse. Lingshur. Black did not have many arrows left. Watch your movements. Although I'm not sure if it's a floating missile or not, as long as it's fast enough, even if the galactic creation Gouda doesn't have a buffer shield, it can still hold on until it runs out of flying arrows. Oh, understood. With Makoto Ito's reminder, Lingshur urged the galactic assault Gouda to speed up again, attempting to launch a roundabout attack from the side. Be careful behind you, Lingshur. The moment the galactic assault Gouda drew an arc in the air and was about to use the debris as cover to close in on Black, Makoto Ito's reminder came right after. TSK. You're really persistent, Lingshur cursed in his heart. He gestured for the galactic assault Gouda to turn around and raise his gun, shooting down another arrow that appeared behind the galactic assault Gouda. Wait. Lingshur. Wait. At this moment, Makoto Ito suddenly shouted for Lingshur to stop shooting. Churring, what are you trying to do? The Ling division didn't suspect anything. He had the Galactic Assault Gundam lower its muzzle and tried to speed up in an attempt to get rid of the flying arrow behind him. Later, when I give the order to shoot Lingshur, you're going to shoot that arrow again. Makoto Ito didn't tell Lingshur why he didn't care about the arrow, but Lingshur nodded and agreed to Makoto Ito's request. You want to take a detour? While Makoto Ito was planning a new strategy, Rei Minkai wasn't idle either. At this moment, there was only one arrow left on Black's waist. As long as this arrow was shot out, Black's ammunition would be depleted. In that case, Makoto Ito and Lingshur might be very happy. With that thought in mind, Rei Minkai's lips curled up slightly. The next moment, Black raised his hands once again, pulled the bow, knocked the arrow, and pulled it to a full moon. Black's red eyes flashed, and the last flying arrow whizzed out, flying in the opposite direction of the Gundam's movement. Alright. No more ammo. The moment the last arrow disappeared into the darkness, a blinding flash suddenly appeared from the direction of the galactic assault Gouda. Hit. Rei Minkai secretly said, but immediately overturned this assumption. No, it didn't hit. It was Galactic's Assault Gundam that took the initiative to destroy the arrow. Rei Minkai looked around, but didn't find any trace of the Galactic Assault Gouda. He took the opportunity to hide when the flash appeared. As soon as this thought appeared, Rei Minkai's heart was suddenly alarmed. Got you, bastard! Suddenly, Lingshur's voice rang in Rei Minkai's ears without any warning. Rei Minkai's heart tightened, and he instinctively controlled Black to take the longbow in his hand and sweep it behind him. Boom! In an instant, a strong force spread from the longbow and quickly attacked Black's entire body. Under this continuous attack, Black was actually unable to stand still. He took a few steps back, and when he was about to forcefully activate the thrusters to stabilize his posture, he finally managed to stabilize his body. As it turned out, during the pursuit just now, Makoto Ito had already noticed the arrow that Black shot out again, and almost at the same time, he thought of a way to use this arrow to reach Black without being discovered in the shortest time possible. Therefore, when the Galactic Assault Gouda's figure rushed into the rubble not far away, Makoto Ito immediately ordered Lingshur to shoot the arrow, and tried to use the explosion of the arrow to attract Rei Minkai's attention. Then, taking advantage of this gap, with a spurt of energy, he launched a surprise attack on the black-haired man with the enhanced combat power brought by the RG system. The RG system? Rei Minkai's gaze pierced through the dust flying in the air, and landed on the figure that was swinging his fist. Yes, the RG system. This is our RG Iron Fist. Lingshur snorted and said proudly. However, Rei Minkai only replied calmly. Is that so? Looks like it's not a big deal. Even Black's longbow can't destroy it. As Rei Minkai's voice fell, Black waved the longbow in his hand, and let Lingshur and Makoto Ito see what the RG Iron Fist that they were so proud of could do. It's actually fine. How is that possible? It was a direct hit. Makoto Ito was shocked, and he looked at the undamaged longbow in Black's hand. Humph. I'll let you see why Black only has one longbow as a weapon. In Rei Minkai's sneer, the longbow that no longer had any flying arrows was once again raised by Black, and aimed at Interstellar Assault Gouda across the air. Hey! Why do you still want to shoot arrows? Your steel pulla is out of ammunition. Lingshur smiled and tried to provoke Rei Minkai with words, while preparing to dodge. In the previous exchange, Lingshur, who had suffered a few times, had raised all his attention, so that he would not make the same mistake again. Lingshur, dodge. Boom. Suddenly, the moment Makoto Ito's voice sounded, Lingshur instinctively dodged, a light flashed. The right shoulder of the Galactic Assault Gundam, which had already made a dodging motion, was blasted apart. What's going on? Lingshur, who was shocked, did not stay where he was. Instead, he moved even faster to escape from Black's shooting range, and hid in the dense debris. Unlike Interstellar Assault Gouda, who once again flashed into the debris, Black, who was standing in the same place, slowly put down his hands, and the longbow in his hand still had traces of light condensed from particles. He can condense particles into light arrows. Guy, what did that guy do to the steel pulla? Such a degree of modification has never been seen in the previous Steel Pulla World Championship. Kawaguchi Celebrity suddenly grabbed the railing excitedly, and said with a hoarse voice. Even the previous 2 generations of Kawaguchi celebrities had never tried, no, never imagined such a steel pulla model. That's right. Maybe this is a brand new steel pulla model. Yazaka Maori also clenched his fists excitedly, and his squinted eyes were already wide open, staring at the big screen. Unlike the excited Kawaguchi celebrity and Yazaka Maori, Makoto Ito, who was the opponent, was both excited and complaining in his heart. Lingshur, even though Black's long-range weapon is only a longbow, it seems like it's hard for us to break through and drag him into a melee battle. Is it because of the light arrow? Lingshur frowned. Even though the light arrow was only a glimpse, Lingshur knew that if it had hit the center of Black's body instead of the right shoulder armor, the match would have been over. Ching, since it's a particle beam, there should be a time interval between the shots. Can you calculate it? Lingshur gritted his teeth and tried to find a feasible way. Makoto Ito frowned. I need more observation. Understood. Lingshur agreed, and Interstellar Assault Gouda charged out from the shadow of the wreckage. It was just a hair's breadth away. A light arrow arrived the moment Interstellar Assault Gouda appeared, and it accurately hit the buffer shield on Interstellar Assault Gouda's left arm. Lingshur didn't say anything as he quickly threw the damaged buffer shield away from Interstellar Assault Gouda's arm. Boom! When the buffer shield exploded with its final light, Interstellar Assault Gouda once again charged behind the debris not far away. Ching, how is it? Did you see it? Lingshur couldn't help but wipe off the cold sweat on his forehead. If the light arrow had moved a little higher, it wouldn't have hit the buffer shield. How did that bastard know Interstellar Assault Gouda's position? Before that, Lingshur had already secretly changed his position a few times. Who knew? What answered Lingshur was Makoto Ito's bitter smile. Although it was only once, I already guessed it. Lingshur. The speed of the light arrow was very fast, almost as fast as Interstellar Assault Gouda's beam rifle. That's it. Facing Makoto Ito's bitter smile, Lingshur's answer was even more surprising. If it's only this speed, Interstellar Assault Gouda's speed can be broken through. No, it won't work. Makoto Ito pointed at the debris around Interstellar Assault Gouda. When Lingshur saw it, he couldn't help but reveal the same helplessness as Makoto Ito. Unknowingly, the distance between Interstellar Assault Gouda and Black had started to pull apart. From that moment on, Interstellar Assault Gouda had already pulled apart a distance from Black. It was impossible for Black to rush up in a short period of time and enter the combat range. At this moment, Several flashes of light suddenly rose, one after another flying past the debris where interstellar assault Gouda was hiding. "We've been discovered." What answered Lingshire was an explosion. Boom. The debris where interstellar assault Gouda was hiding trembled nonstop. Cracks appeared on the debris in front of Lingshire's eyes, tearing the debris apart at an incomparable speed. Boom! Immediately after, when this even more violent explosion tore apart the debris where interstellar assault Gouda was hiding, it also sent interstellar assault Gouda flying. The incomparably violent impact caused interstellar assault Gouda to lose control. He could only go with the flow of this violent impact, rolling around uncontrollably. Chung! Quick! Interstellar assault Gouda can't move. Lingshire's eyes were wide open as he tried to restore interstellar assault Gouda's control. "I'm doing it!" Clang! Suddenly, a series of crashing sounds attracted Makoto Ito's attention, causing him to subconsciously pause the mission in his hand and raise his head to look at the surveillance screen in front of him. The next moment, Makoto Ito's eyes widened, and his excited voice carried a hint of surprise. "Lingshire, I know how to get close to Black." The explosion that destroyed the debris gradually subsided. In front of Black's eyes, interstellar assault Gouda's figure could no longer be seen. This caused Ray Minkai to have a trace of doubt. UFFI. The moment he subconsciously let UFFI investigate, Ray Minkai suddenly remembered that before the finals began, he had let Euphemia stay in the audience and watch the finals as a spectator. Is this considered male chauvinism? Ray Minkai's mouth twitched, but he immediately focused his gaze and stared at the area not far away that was filled with debris. Suddenly, several black shadows broke through the air. Black's eyes flashed, and the longbow in his hand was drawn a few times, shooting out several light arrows, intercepting the black shadows halfway. Boom! 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 The black shadows exploded. An even bigger and darker shadow quickly broke through the encirclement of the debris and headed straight for Black. Chapter 179. The debris was pushed away by the gigantic shadow as it swept across the void with a powerful momentum, knocking away all obstacles in its way. Even in the process of the collision, the debris itself would shatter. The scattered rubble didn't attract Ray's or Lei Minkai's attention. The only thing that caught their attention was the black shadow that had smashed through the rubble and appeared in front of them in a domineering manner: the battleship. The Magellan-class cruiser. They actually let this thing in? Ray Minkai's pupils shrunk as he said in surprise. Although the appearance of the Magellan class had surprised Ray Minkai, he did not panic at all. Because as long as he paid a little attention to the Magellan-class cruiser that suddenly appeared on the battlefield, he could clearly see the large and small scars on its body, as well as the huge hole in the turret that was pierced through by powerful attacks. Such a battleship riddled with scars would undoubtedly only appear on this battlefield after a fierce battle. And the formation of this submerged reef sector was mostly due to the Great War of Rumus. Even so, I didn't expect Cheng and Lingshire to be able to find this thing. The steel Pula combat system is really surprising. While he was amazed, Ray Minkai had already understood the intention of Makoto Ito and Lingshire. That's right. Although the Magellan-class cruiser was damaged, it unexpectedly still retained the basic ability to sail. As long as one could see the dazzling flame behind the Magellan-class cruiser, it was not difficult to understand the intention of Makoto Ito and Lingshire. A shield. As Lei Minkai asked himself in a low voice, Black raised the longbow in his hand and locked on to the Magellan-class cruiser that was charging straight at Black, breaking through the debris in a tyrannical manner. As Black pulled the longbow open with both hands, a shining fluorescent light slowly emerged from the void and quickly condensed into a faintly discernible bowstring between Black's hands. The moment the bowstring connected Black's hands to the bow, A beam arrow filled with the light of Palevsky particles appeared in front of everyone's eyes. That's Lamia's. No, that's not right. Although it looks like it, it's not Lamia's move. Is it a move that the young man created himself? Once again, the old man came to the Shizuoka Tempula World Tournament with Himimi and Himimi. He was watching the finals with a serious expression on his face. He was looking back and forth at Black, who was drawing her bow. Lamia? Grandpa, is she the person you met when you entered the world last time? Little Snow's hand that was twirling the pipe in her hand, and she immediately became interested. And you can say so. She's a woman that's hard to evaluate. The old man nodded and gave an ambiguous evaluation. Is that so? I wonder where that person is now. Himimi turned her eyes and tried to ask the old man about Lamia's whereabouts. She's no longer there. That world has sunk in the turmoil of the abyss. And Lamia is also the main culprit. The old man shook his head and sighed. This is the uncertainties of the world. Mimi, Little Snow, you should be careful in the future. In the end, when the old man recalled that Lamia actually chose to give up herself, give up hope, and give up the future of the world, he couldn't help but exhort his two beloved granddaughters. Although there was no blood relationship between them, as soon as the words came out, the old man immediately realized that he seemed to have inadvertently destroyed the atmosphere of the finals. Cough cough. Mimi, Little Snow, about Lamia, let's talk about it later. Now let's watch the finals. Mimi and Little Snow looked at each other and nodded their heads. Then, they refocused their attention on the Steel Polo World Tournament. Although the old man's words seemed to be very long, in fact, it didn't take much time. When Mimi and Little Snow refocused their attention on the battle between Rei Minkai, Makoto Ito, and Lingshire, the particle beam condensed by Black just happened to reach its peak state. Before the beam arrow filled with countless particles of brilliance was shot out from the longbow in Black's hand, the surrounding void had already shown a slight distortion phenomenon. It could be seen that the beam arrow deliberately condensed by Rei Minkai, and even Black, contained a terrifying amount of energy. The beam arrow was aimed at the Magellan-class cruiser that had accelerated to the limit. With the current speed of the Magellan-class cruiser that was so broken that it only had the ability to move, even if it didn't have any attack ability, as long as it relied on its huge mass to directly collide with Black and hit Black, then the future that greeted Black was the ending of being torn apart. Of course, with its high mobility, Black could easily dodge the Magellan-class cruiser before it collided with Black. However, Rei Minkai didn't want to do that. What he wanted was to completely defeat Makoto Ito and Lingshire. So, at this time, the beam arrow condensed in Black's hand was the manifestation of his will. Close, close, close. The broken bow of the Magellan cruiser had expanded from its original size to its original size. It rushed to the front of Black along with countless rolling stones. Just a minute, no, not even half a minute, and Black would definitely be hit by the broken Magellan-class cruiser and be torn apart. At this critical moment, Black's right hand loosened, and the beam arrow that had been charging for a long time suddenly shot out from the longbow. In the blink of an eye, before the trajectory in the void had completely disappeared, the beam arrow that had been charging for a long time sank into the bow of the Magellan-class cruiser. Then, silence. It disappeared. It didn't work. Fellini narrowed his eyes and asked subconsciously. When Black's beam arrow was ready to be fired, Fellini was captivated by the elegant demeanor displayed by Black's every move. It could be said that Black's performance had unquestionably opened a door for Fellini, a door that allowed him to enter a higher level of combat with temper. No. It's working. Kawaguchi Minami raised his finger and pointed at the big screen. The beam arrow shot by Black suddenly disappeared when it hit the bow of the Magellan-class cruiser. It was not because the particle beam arrow lost its effect, but because the beam arrow shot by Black penetrated the body of the cruiser in a mysterious way, and then, at a certain point in time, it exploded with a loud bang. Boom! A loud bang. A burst of dazzling light burst out from the body of the cruiser in an instant, releasing the ferocious energy that was enough to tear the void apart. Rumble, when the sound of the explosion released by the Steel Pulla Battle System simulation sound effects system was still shaking the ears of the audience, a figure dragging a faintly discernible fluorescent light suddenly rushed out from the explosion of the Magellan-class cruiser, drawing a constantly twisting and turning flight path in the void. Had already rushed to the front of Black. "I've finally caught you! Eat my fist!" As soon as Lingshur shouted, the figure that was emitting light blue fluorescent light immediately waved its pair of iron fists, smashing towards Black like raindrop. Bang! 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 As the iron fists were waving, it had already fought back and forth with the longbow in Black's hand for dozens of rounds, but it still could not do anything to the longbow in Black's hand. "Is this the RG Iron Fist that you're so proud of?" Black moved its left foot, and then it flew up and kicked the figure that was constantly waving its iron fists at it, which was also the interstellar creation Assault Gauda, and then it took a few more steps back, raising the bow, aiming, shooting. But it was not easy for Makoto Ito to rely on the wreckage of the Magellan-class cruiser that suddenly appeared in the submerged reef universe to make a desperate dash to Black's side. Makoto Ito and the others would not just watch Black pull away from the interstellar creation Assault Gauda again. "Cheng!" Lingshur shouted, and his hands moved continuously, making the interstellar creation Assault Gauda step on the gravel under his feet, and rushed at the retreating Black at full speed with the maximum power of the thruster. Understood. RG system fully unleashed. Makoto Ito, who knew that he could not miss this opportunity, quickly increased the output of the RG system to the maximum. Buzz! A light flashed in front, and the longbow in Black's hand was drawn again. "How can I let you run away? Kai! RG Iron Fist!" Seeing that the light in front of him was getting brighter, Lingshur's eyes widened, and the interstellar creation Assault Gauda raised his right hand, waved his fist, and smashed straight on the particle beam arrow shot by Black. Buzz! A deafening sound of particles colliding with each other swept across the entire battlefield. Then, the moment the particle beam arrow completely dissipated, the interstellar creation Assault Gauda, who did not suffer any damage from the particle beam arrow, once again appeared on the big screen. "He's fine? Is the RG system fully unleashed?" Although he was a little surprised, Ray Minkai was not surprised at all. On the contrary, Ray Minkai did not stay idle, and he once again controlled Black to shoot 3 particle beam arrows consecutively, locking onto the interstellar creation Assault Gauda's head, chest, abdomen, and feet respectively. However, the moment these 3 particle beam arrows swept across the void and rushed to the front of the interstellar creation Assault Gauda, they were easily defeated by the interstellar creation Assault Gauda with 2 punches and 1 kick. "Kai! Your attack is ineffective. Die!" Lingshur, who was finally able to suppress Black, shouted, as he controlled the interstellar creation Assault Gauda to rush to the front of Black. Another round of punches and kicks. Since the beginning of the battle, Lingshur, who had suffered many beatings because of the distance between them, would never let Ray Minkai and Black have the chance to retreat. Therefore, according to Makoto Ito and Lingshur's plan, they would use the maximum power of the RG system to entangle Black, and force it to fight the interstellar creation Gauda. In this way, Makoto Ito and Lingshur's chances of winning would be increased by a lot. Therefore, they seized every opportunity to close in on Black, forcing it into the battle that Lingshur and the interstellar creation Assault Gauda were good at. Lingshur could be said to be holding back his strength, fully displaying the performance of the interstellar creation Assault Gauda to the fullest. As the punches and kicks rose and fell, Black, who was able to block the interstellar creation Assault Gao Da's attacks with just a longbow, had to move back and forth, dodging the increasingly fierce attacks of the interstellar creation Assault Gao Da. Crack. Suddenly, Lingshi heard a slight crisp sound. Sincerity. Lingshi's eyes flashed as he shouted. Yeah, I heard it too. Makoto Ito responded. The key to everything was at this moment. Oh. Prepare to die. Kai. Lingshi let out a battle cry. The interstellar creation Assault Gao Da kept his right fist at his waist, stretched out his left hand, opened it, and went straight for Black's head. Then, when Makoto Ito increased the power of the thrusters until it broke through the limit, the right fist of the interstellar creation Assault Gao Da that was kept at his waist struck out. Bang! A loud explosion was heard. Then, the longbow in Black's hand that had blocked the interstellar creation Assault Gao Da's iron fist countless times, and had repeatedly defeated Makoto Ito and Lingshi's battle tactics, was broken just like that. Almost at the same time, a burst of exclamation was heard from the audience. Kai! Among them, accompanied by Aslan, Euphemia, who was sitting in the audience, cried out worriedly. Miss Euphemia! Don't worry. Kai won't lose. You have to believe in him. Aslan, who was sitting next to her, comforted Euphemia. Euphemia heard this and nodded slowly. Participating in the battle was one thing, and sitting in the audience was another. Euphemia had never felt such a sense of worry as she did now. Under her worried gaze, Black, who had been suppressing the interstellar creation Assault Gao Da with the advantage of the longbow, made a new move. The longbow was broken under RG's iron fist. However, Rei Minkai did not panic. On the contrary, his expression became calmer. The moment the broken longbow began to fly into the void, Black's right hand opened and closed. In the blink of an eye, he threw away the remains of the longbow in his hand and clenched his fist again. He valiantly punched the iron fist of the interstellar creation Assault Gao Da. Bang! Another loud sound rang out. The impact from the collision of the two fists forced Black and Galactic Assault Gundam to retract their fists. However, almost at the same time, they threw out another punch at each other, aiming straight for each other's vitals. Bang! Without a doubt, this was another collision of fists. Hey! I didn't expect it to be so exciting. Looks like you don't only know how to shoot arrows, Kai. Lingshi laughed and said with a provocative tone. Rei Minkai did not answer. Instead, he responded to Lingshi's provocation with action. A black shadow suddenly burst out from under Black's body and went straight to the waist of the interstellar creation Assault Gao Da. Lingshi's eyes flashed. The interstellar creation Assault Gao Da immediately lifted his leg and kicked out, blocking the path of the black shadow. Bang! The black shadow stopped. It was Black's right leg. In the next second, Black and the Galactic Assault Gundam moved at the same time. They charged toward the asteroid that was floating right above their heads and had a relatively large surface area. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.